your special spirit of wisdom be with our elected city officials, so the decisions made here this evening will be for the benefit of our community and all of its citizens. Now, God, we ask you to hear this prayer. Amen.
Please stand, put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chaplain Fritz and Alejandro. We certainly appreciate your participation here tonight. City Attorney, Ms. City Attorney, is there anything to report from our closed session?
We do have reportable action on one item, Mayor. We engaged in conversation on a number of closed session matters. On item number 5, under conference with legal counsel in existing litigation, and the matter of Signs and Hannah versus the City of San Bernardino, the City Council authorized its outside counsel to file an appeal in this case, and that was on a vote of 4-1. Changed, I think it was 4-2. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
3-3.
It was a 3-3 vote, broken tie by the mayor. So sorry. And that is our reportable action.
Thank you. Does that conclude your report?
It does.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. City Attorney. Tonight, we turn to our presentations segment of our City Council meeting. For our presentations, I'd like to first recognize Anthony Partner, and if you would please join me at the podium. We'll be joined over here. Yes, sir.
You let me know. Yeah, you're probably going to have to do that if I didn't know. I'm sorry.
Maestro Partner was recently appointed as a music director for the San Bernardino Symphony Orchestra here in San Bernardino, California. Maestro Partner has performed around the world and has collaborated with artists such as Kanye West, Rihanna, and many others. Mr. Partner has been the leading authority on orchestral works by minorities and women composers, both of whom are neglected in concert halls. It's an honor, sir, having you here. I enjoyed my time this afternoon with you, learning about your childhood experiences and the very professional capabilities and assets that we have in you. So we present this certificate of welcome on behalf of the City of San Bernardino, signed by myself, Mayor, and all 7 council members, sir. Welcome to San Bernardino.
Thank you so much. Sure, absolutely.
All right, let's take a couple of pictures here.
Very good, please.
All right, thank you. It's a real honor to come to my new home here at San Bernardino with our wonderful orchestra, which is celebrating 91 years of history. The San Bernardino Symphony is one of the oldest, thank you. San Bernardino Symphony is one of the oldest professional orchestras in our state. It is only 9 years younger than the LA Philharmonic. And we have a great legacy of richness, but we're going to continue it with themes and concerts that will be profound and relevant to our wonderful community here in San Bernardino. So I'm fully dedicated to meeting all of you, and I would love to see all of you at our next concert, which is in November the 16th. We're bringing in Broadway icon and diva Jennifer Holliday and one of the world's great cellists, Lynn Harrell. So that'll be our next concert. Take a look at our website, and I look forward to seeing you all. Thank you very much for this great honor.
Thank you, sir. Welcome. At this time, we now move to Councilmember Charette of the 4th District. He will recognize a very deserving resident as Citizen of the Month. Councilman?
Sorry about that. Bad knee and everything running down here. It's my pleasure tonight to not recognize a Citizen of the Month, but a group of citizens that I think deserve some some recognition. I'd like to call up anybody that is here tonight from the new or the re-established Belvedere Neighborhood Group. Jody, Mike. I'd like to mention this is Jody Castaneda. She stepped up and took on the presidency with the support of her husband, Mike. She told me there was no way she was going to do it without the support of her husband, and he gave her the pass and said, go for it. It's a big job, as other people that are involved in neighborhood groups know. We have a board of directors meeting member here.
Uncle Fred
Doug,
forgot my name.
Doug Wheeler. I don't know you, sir. Robert, very quickly, I'm going to announce we have Jody, who is the president. Vice president is Justin help me with the last name.
Not quite sure how to pronounce it.
Milakis, I think, something like that. Secretary is Sharon Lauer, and treasurer is Rosemary Angus. Also, members at large are Doug Wheeler, who's here, Faye Henry, Mike Castaneda, Bob and Whitmore, and Pastor Sarah Ritchie, and Lee Angeles. And these folks have stepped up to, again, breathe life into one of our neighborhood groups that was dormant. And I've been to a couple of their meetings that they had. They had a huge cleanup this week on Foothill Boulevard. There's pictures. I don't know if you've posted them anywhere. I know I got some in my email. I think Terry got some. And really appreciate what you did and all the effort that you're putting into this. It's a good group of people, and I'd just like to recognize the board, the members, and the officers of the Belvedere Neighborhood Association as citizens of the month. There you are. You don't have to. Do you want to? We'd like you to. Just say something.
Good evening. I just want to thank Lynn Ware and Amelia Lopez for encouraging us to get the Belvedere Neighborhood Association going again. It wasn't something that I thought of, but what I did think of walking around my neighborhood is that I've noticed there's a big change since when I grew up there. And so I started thinking about what we could do to make a difference in our own neighborhood instead of asking, why isn't something being done? So with encouragement from the city manager, the mayor, and Councilman Fred Choret, that's why we started this neighborhood association up again. And thank you, Don Smith, also as well, for coming to our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In Belvedere Neighborhood Association, we're grateful for your reactivation. We're very grateful for your leadership. At this time, I will ask Mayor Pro Tem to join me as we recognize Gloria Macias Harrison of the El Chicano newspaper for their 50th anniversary. And Gloria, you're joining us. Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I want to speak a little bit about one of our West Side girls here and talk about a little bit about her and her accomplishments. So El Chicano newspaper published its first newspaper in 1969. Today, El Chicano publishes weekly, 1969. 69, yeah. My hearing is okay. So today, El Chicano publishes weekly along with 9 other community weeklies. Gloria Macias Harrison is one of the founders of El Chicano News. She has led an amazing life through education and her educational journey from attending San Bernardino Elementary Schools to becoming president of Crafton Hills College. She received an Associate of Arts degree from San Bernardino Valley College, a Bachelor's of Art degree, and a Master's of Art degree in Spanish Literature from the University of California, Riverside. She is currently an elected member of the San Bernardino Community College District Board of Trustees. She has balanced 2 careers, raised a family, and has been highly involved in the community activism since the early 1960s. She is definitely a member of our San Bernardino community. Gloria, again, like I said, is a West Side girl. She grew up in what we called Carverdale. For those of you that don't know, that's right off of Muscat and Vine Street. Muscat is now known as Medical Center. And she's also a San Bernardino High School Cardinal.
Yay, Cardinal.
There you go. Woo, there's a lot of us in the room. She served as president of Crafton Hills College and vice president of instruction for 6 years. She also served on the California Council of Humanities for 3 years and taught for 20 years at San Bernardino Valley College. She is the recipient of numerous accolades and awards. Gloria's civic involvement, professional and business experience is quite amazing. Some involvements include the Kiwanis Club, the American Association of University Women, the League of Women Voters, the San Bernardino Symphony Association and Guild, and the Valley Concert Association. She was a governor's appointee to the California Commission on the Status of Women, and that's just a brief synopsis of Gloria Macias Harrison. We want to congratulate her and the founders of El Chicano newspaper in the celebration of its 50th anniversary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. On behalf of the City of San Bernardino, it gives me great delight to present this resolution signed by the mayor, myself, and all 7 council members. Whereas El Chicano newspaper is celebrating on this occasion its 50th anniversary as the first Chicano English publication to serve the Inland Empire, and whereas in 1968 a young group of activists from San Bernardino and Riverside were determined to reinvent public perception, provide a voice to tell the stories of the underserved and unrepresented Mexican-American community through the power of the pen. And whereas in 1969 El Chicano newspaper became the independent and locally owned, with Martha Macias Brown as its editor, her sister Gloria Macias Harrison as its first publisher, and William B. Harrison as its first business manager. El Chicano newspaper was originally staffed by 6 volunteers working from their homes. The operation has since expanded to their 4,000 square foot home located in San Bernardino on Hospitality Lane, which is my old council district, 3rd Ward. By the way, we're getting stuff paved around there.
What?
We're getting stuff paved around your
Commerce Center West.
Yeah, we're on it. And whereas today the El Chicano newspaper, owned and operated by Gloria and Bill Harrison, has grown to become one segment of the Inland Empire Community News Group that includes the Colton Courier, the Rialto Record, and several other publications. What began as a small editorial publication has burgeoned to become a well-respected and well-recognized agent of communication, highlighting city and civic engagements and our achievements in local news. So, Gloria, on behalf of the City Council and the Mayor, we present to you this resolution recognizing your 50 years.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Few words.
There you go.
Thank you very much. I am so honored with this recognition, considering that when we first started, we were a group of activists who were concerned about the issues in our community. And as you heard, I'm a West Side girl. I grew up, was born near the corner of 5th and Mount Vernon. You can't get any more West Side than that. And we were students during a time of the 60s where our president had been assassinated, where Martin Luther King had been assassinated, where we had walkouts in the schools, where we had all kinds of civic unrest. Our schools, for all intents and purposes, were segregated, and we worked with other groups in our community to have a voice. We were seen as our uncles who came back from World War II were seemed to be complacent, in our opinion, because we were very young. You have to remember that. And we did not want to be hyphenated Americans. We did not want to be known as Mexican Americans. We wanted to be known as Americans, but at the same time, the issues that were facing our community were such that we didn't feel we were fully citizens. And so we came up with the name El Chicano. El Chicano is an indigenous word, and I can tell you that our elders did not like the name. They thought it sounded too much like Chico and chicanery, but eventually they said, you know, they're young kids, what do they know? And so we started the publication. We became, in fact, there's one of our former writers. You're a librarian. Oh my God, I just saw you, Ed. Anyway, it's taken a lot of shapes, a lot of forms, and I have to say that we're probably, as a niche minority press, one of the few family-owned publications in this area. The Guthries are gone, who own the Sun. The Press Enterprise is no longer owned by a family. The Redlands publication is no longer owned by a family. So what is left is an awful lot of my friends, and I see one of my friends here in the audience, and that is Cheryl and Hardy Brown, who during the time that we were publishing, we received some mentoring from Art Townsend, who put out the Precinct Reporter, from Sam Martin, who put out The American. And we still have Wallace Allen, who puts out West Side Story, and of course the Browns, who still put out The Black Voice and The Voice. So we're one of your native, locally owned publications. We are a small business in your town. We pay our taxes. We hire people. We try to put a positive view on what's going on in our city. And like any other media publication at this time, we have our struggles, but we're doing well. And we appreciate your support in that effort. And although small businesses like ours are no longer as numerous as when we first started, because although our elders didn't like our name, all the merchants on Mount Vernon took out advertising and supported us. So I thank you for this recognition. El Chicano, the Colton Courier, the Rialto Record, IECN News Media is doing well, and we hope to continue our journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have an update from the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority on the Mount Vernon Bridge project. Ms. Beauchamp, great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know that I can follow such a wonderful citizen here. But with Mount Vernon Viaduct Bridge, SBCTA has been working on it for the city for 2 years, working through Caltrans and State Historic Preservation Office to move the project forward. It was a collaboration, between the railroads, Caltrans. At the time, it was the county rather than the city in 1939 when it was originally built. And so now it's time to rebuild the bridge, and we're doing so with collaboration from the city, the railroad, and the state as well. In 2004, there were deficiencies in the bridge that were cited. In fact, there were cracks in the girders, and so temporary shoring was placed in 4 locations. And again, in 2008, 3 other locations were found, and so further temporary shoring was placed. In 2017, around 4th of July, we received a phone call that portions of the bridge, chunks of concrete, were falling from the bridge, and so we went out to investigate and found that the chunks indeed were basically small delaminated pieces of concrete that were being popped off the bridge basically under the sidewalk. However, it was still structurally sound and safe for pedestrians. On a side note, our recent earthquakes that we experienced did cause alarm for both your city engineer and myself, and so together we got the state to come and inspect the bridge, and they were there within a couple hours after our phone call. So, it was a great joint effort. The concept basically is to construct the bridge in the same alignment in which it stands now, but it will be longer and wider. And then in order to avoid an extended closure of the bridge and the resultant detours, we're working to build 2 temporary shoe flies, they're called, or temporary tracks, so that we can have extended closures within the rail yard so we can build our foundations and our columns. So the city will be left with a bridge which has 2 lanes, a median, shoulder, and a standard sidewalk in each direction in the end. And so the project status is probably really hard for you to see because the letters are so small. However, since 2016, we've been able to complete a supplemental environmental document. We've got the funding secured, and we've actually started our right-of-way recently, inquiring properties that are necessary for the construction. And then currently we have design build proposals that are being considered, and we actually hope to award design build contract in November of this year. Along with that, we have a 3-party agreement, so you'll be seeing that very soon between the BNSF, SBCTA, and yourselves. It will be for construction and maintenance of the bridge, and it also will solidify the $29.5 million contribution by the railroad for this project. In terms of public outreach, we will be reaching out as time gets closer to the demolition, and I'll speak a little bit more about another aside on that. The schedule, as I said, we would like to award the contract this fall, so hopefully November, and then in spring, so we're thinking April. The design builder will probably be out there demolishing, so you'll see us before that out there preparing for the detour, and also planning for shuttle services. Because this area has a high volume of pedestrians that use that bridge, we're requiring the design builder to have a shuttle service that starts before we close the bridge, and that doesn't conclude until after the bridge is open to traffic. And so with that, again, I had mentioned the right-of-way that we're doing, and that we think the bridge will be out of service approximately 3 years rather than 6+ if we didn't have the ability to reduce the ability to increase the work windows. We're finalizing our funding through the state. The state is funding 88.53% of the $281 million. And then the remaining portion is to be shared between the city and actually some of that will be the BNSF funds that we'll be acquiring. So we're getting a pretty good deal here. There will be community impacts, and so we are looking at it. You know, the north-south will be bisected, so we'll look at detouring traffic around. We'll have shuttles for pedestrians. So everything will be signed. We'll be able to send messages around the detour to let everyone know that businesses are still open. We will be looking at mitigating construction noise with our work windows, and we'll be working closely with your city engineer on that. And then, as I mentioned, you know, we are acquiring properties in order to construct the project. And we do have some commercial impacts. However, since we don't have a final design, we're actually looking to minimize all of these right-of-way impacts before we finalize the right-of-way that we'll take. As I mentioned, you know, we will be discussing outreach, you know, locally with the city. One of the things we're doing that's kind of different than our other projects is that we are actually engaging San Bernardino County instructors locally. And so in December, we're hoping to have a kickoff meeting with them to explain what the project is, and hopefully somehow this project can be shared with students in the area. And we're hoping to inspire students to get into industry, whether it be construction or engineering or environmental, but there are so many different specialties that touch these projects, and so we're hoping to inspire some thoughts about that here locally. This concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beauchamp. We appreciate the partnership with SBCTA, and we're very grateful for that relationship. As I am now a member of SBCTA, I enjoy seeing the active role that we now have as a partnership, and so we're very grateful. Mr. Charette?
Thank you. I'd like to just remind the community and ask you a more direct question that we at one time had 3751, steam engine 3751, which was out at the corner of 2nd, I think, and Mount Vernon. That subsequently went to Los Angeles. And it's my understanding that they're looking to move again and considering coming back here, as well as some other antique rail cars. I had the pleasure of riding on 3751 on a railroad days. We had it out here. We went into LA and then came back on these old antique rail cars. And it's quite an attraction and quite an asset. That depot, I was going there probably when most of this audience wasn't born, smashing pennies with the rail cars coming in when I was picking up my grandmother that was actually riding in here from Pasadena on a train to spend the weekend with our family. So that is a very, very special building, that depot. And we've got the opportunity, I think, to bring 3751 back and maybe some other cars. And I understand that there have been tracks that have been dedicated to that. And my question is, after all that, is are the tracks being the tracks that were established for 3751 and specifically for that, are they being impacted by the construction, or are they in consideration? Are we going to still have the ability to maybe bring that back if we can negotiate that?
So the extra set of tracks that you're mentioning will be preserved.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So, I want to make sure that we're on the same page here. So with preserving those, we'll be able to bring those historical locomotives back into the train depot.
Yes, we're preserving them by also having the adequate horizontal and vertical clearances to allow those to enter and exit that area.
Ms. Beauchamp, one of my concerns, former councilman for the 3rd District, have we activated or do we know the safety plan when we reroute ambulance, paramedic, and fire engine service? As I understand, the 3rd District is served by station number 9, which is on 9th Street, I think. And so I know that station 9 serves that area. What are the contingencies and what's the safety plan so that residents in the 3rd District and certainly parts of the 6th and the 1st Ward aren't compromised?
So it's twofold. On one level, it's the outreach. So we do meet with our emergency services, police, fire, before we have any changes. We explain exactly what the detour will include, and then the second part is we activate the detour and make sure that it's fully functional before we actually put it in place, and then again, more communication about the fact that it's in place.
Very good.
There are residents along, maybe about somewhere under 10 residents on 3rd Street. How are they going to be affected? Because the only way in and out of their residential street is they have to come across that bridge. How are they being affected by this?
Okay, and I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of your question.
Residents living on 3rd Street.
Okay, the residents on 3rd Street. So on 3rd Street, basically, we're not going to close that street that goes under Mount Vernon presently. We are not going to close that. Now, that might be closed temporarily while we're building construction, but what we're doing is we're actually building a detour street in that vicinity as well. So there'll be another egress while we're closing 3rd Street.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beauchamp. We appreciate you and our partners at SBCTA, and thank you for the update. Moving on to our Chamber of Commerce tonight, we are joined by our Chamber of Commerce representative, and you'll provide some announcements. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Wheeler, Chairman of the Board of Directors of the San Bernardino Area Chamber of Commerce, here with some community announcements and some recognition for this month. Tomorrow, September 19th, the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools will be given his annual State of the Education Address at the California Theater of the Performing Arts on 4th Street. You can call 386-2413 for more information. Later that same evening, enjoy wine and food under the stars at their annual event presented by the National Orange Show. The event begins at 6. Please call the National Orange Show at 888-6788 for further details. On Wednesday, September 25th, don't forget the San Bernardino City Unified School District Tip of Cop takes place at the Mexico Cafe, located at 892 Highland Avenue between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. You can call 951-703-6502 for more information. On September 27th, the Inland Empire Lighthouse for the Blind Golf Tournament and Poker Run takes place at the Arrowhead Country Club beginning at 1 p.m. You can call 884-3121 for details. On September 28th, the San Bernardino City Community Dump Day takes place at the Western Regional Little League campus on Little League Drive starting at 8 a.m. You can call 384-7272 for further information. Later that day, Habitat for Humanity's Blueprints and Boots fundraiser starts at 5:30 at the San Bernardino County Museum in Redlands. You can call 478-1176 to reserve a space. Finally, October 5th, don't forget to rev up your engine within the Chamber of Commerce and the City of San Bernardino present their annual rendezvous back to Route 66 downtown San Bernardino between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. We'll have over 1,000 classic cars, food, drinks, vendors, kids zone, and cruising down E Street. You can call 885-7515 for more information. And then we want to do a little recognition tonight for, we have a lot of great new things going on in San Bernardino, but we want to take an opportunity to celebrate, I guess for a better term, some older things here in San Bernardino. So one of the Chamber's goals is assisting small businesses, watching them develop, and hoping they stay. I would like to name a few of those small businesses who began in San Bernardino and whose families have helped these businesses grow and remain through generations, through the good and the bad. So we have Bobbitt's Memorial Chapel. They began in 1923. Stevenson's Flowers, also in 1923. Brill's Shoes also began in 1923, with actually Mr. Brill began before that selling shoes out of the back of his car. All these businesses are located on Highland Avenue and Del Rosa. Meatless Cafe began in 1937 and still occupies the same building there on Mount Vernon Avenue. Patricia Bobbitt took over Golden Medical Supply after her mother died, who opened the business in 1937. And then a couple of the younger businesses are the Mexico Cafe, who originally opened in 1951, Quill Brothers Signs in 1961. To name a few more, it's Bill Carey Automobiles, Arrowhead Mechanical, Crown Printing, and then another very well-known Gresham, Savage, Nolan, and Tilden, which began as Lonergan, started in 1910. Anita's Mexican Foods originated in San Bernardino. They have grown after a merger and moved into a much larger facility and ship all over the world, but they stayed in San Bernardino. And these are just a few of the success stories the Chamber wanted to highlight. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wheeler. And we thank you for the appreciative.
Mr. Chamber here. Let me just add one. Did you mention Noyes Bakery?
Noyes, yeah, there's a lot more. I
just wanted to say that Noyes Bakery is celebrating its 95th anniversary. It's changed ownership, but its 95th anniversary is coming up this month. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. We appreciate you, and we thank you for your announcements tonight. I also want to compliment you for also remaining positive about our city and our Chamber of Commerce and the great efforts that you provide our community. Mr. Charette?
Real quick comment. There is no such place as Crown Printing. It was Crown Printers since 1970 until about 2 years ago when they changed their name to Crown Connect. But I do thank you, and my brothers thank you for recognizing them.
All right, moving on to our elected officials. Are there any elected official representatives? Seeing none, we'll move immediately on to our public comment speakers. We are utilizing both podiums tonight, and we ask that you please, when I call your name, please get on deck so we can make most use of our time tonight. Our first speaker is Cheryl Brown, followed by Alice Chow, followed by Brenda Lynch, and Treasurer Ortiz.
I'm speaking for Hardy Brown. He has these notes that he wanted me to read. And he says, "Thank you, Mayor and Council. At the last meeting during the public comment section, a parent spoke to you about the Chief of Police not calling him back and that at the Hardy Brown College Prep School and that it only served African American children. The gentleman went on to comment that his child was not enrolled at the school. For your information, this is a public charter school granted by the authority of the San Bernardino Unified School District Board of Education, and any kid who wants to enroll there can do so regardless of race." At the end of his 3 minutes comments, Mayor Pro Tem Bessine Richard directed Acting Police Chief Eric McBride to meet with him in the lobby. As I was leaving the meeting, I noticed Mr. McBride talking with a gentleman, and so was Dion Taylor, representative of Assemblymember James Ramos. Dion stopped me and introduced me to the gentleman. But the one thing I want you to know, is the professional manner in which the Acting Police Chief McBride explained to the man the rights and authority of a security guard to carry a firearm. Apparently, the parent was questioning the security guard's right to escort him off the property. So I commend Mr. McBride for the way he handled the situation with the parent who wanted the best education for his child, but not knowing how to obtain it. For your information, I did follow up with the parent, turned his contact information over to the CEO of Fortune Schools, they run the school, so his concerns could be investigated. I know Miss Fortune and her father very well, so I'm confident that his concerns will be addressed. In closing, I still say that all of the city vacant management positions should be posted for people to apply, even if someone internally is selected. 114 years is a long time to go with only one minority holding the position of chief, with none employed in the top management of the police department. You should also require annually a human resource workforce analysis report by the department that is done by race, sex, to the council. There are other identified protected groups by state and federal law requirements that should be included as well. You cannot correct the problem if you do not know you have a problem. Thank you. And he wanted to take this time to congratulate Bill and Gloria Harrison on celebrating 50 years that you recognized earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Alice Chow, followed by Brenda Lynch, followed by Treasurer Ortiz. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Alice Chow, and I'm with the San Bernardino Animal Care Organization. We are one of the nonprofits that would like to partner with the City of San Bernardino. We have 60 501c3 nonprofit organizations within our group. They range from dog rescues, cat rescues, wildlife rescues, dog trainers, and organizations that provide free spay and neuter, vaccinations, microchips, pet food, and supplies for residents. Also within our group are the volunteers that have been helping the San Bernardino shelter for 7 years. We are the ones who network the animals to get them rescued and adopted, and the ones who get the donations needed for the shelter. Our rescues range from 46 years of experience to 25 years to 18 years, and the rest are averaging about 9.6 years of experience doing dog rescue. Each of these rescues pull from several Southern California shelters, ranging from Orange County to LA County and also San Bernardino City. We are experienced with each shelter and how they operate. We know which shelters follow industry standards, best practices, and work well with rescues to save more lives. The managers at the past SBC and present placed there with no shelter experience. Most are from the police department. Newly hired kennel staff have no shelter experience either. One of our partner rescues who saved some San Bernardino was just recognized on the Ellen DeGeneres show. She adopted a puppy from her and thanked her for the good work she does on her show. We have a close relationship with Friends of Upland, who is a nonprofit that helps run the Upland shelter. The quality of animal care services, increased adoptions, and life save rate have all been the positive effects of working with the nonprofit. Friends just got another 5-year contract from the City of Upland with 2 3-year extensions. They are doing an amazing job, and each year they save the city around $350,000 running the shelter operations. The work they do for the shelter is completely free. They are volunteer-based. They are able to do this successfully because the City of Upland and their police department works well with Friends. In the City of San Bernardino if the City of San Bernardino partners with the nonprofit, we can both the city and nonprofit can receive grants. The nonprofit can fundraise. Financially, this is a solution for the common saying that you say San Bernardino has no money issue. My question to you, San Bernardino Animal Care Organization submitted an unsolicited contract a few months ago. Why wasn't our contract considered? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brenda Lynch, followed by Treasurer Tees, followed by Philip Peterson. Ms. Lynch, welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to be reading the letter that you were all handed. To whom it may concern, as a board member and volunteer coordinator for Friends of Upland Animal Shelter, I'm writing you today to express my concern and thoughts about San Bernardino City Animal Shelter. I have given several tours to representatives from your city, as well as the nonprofit rescue that want to partner with the City of San Bernardino, like Friends partners with the City of Upland. Friends of Upland Animal Shelter is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is responsible for shelter operations and adoptions at Upland Animal Shelter, while the City of Upland is responsible for animal control functions. I believe that work towards forming a private-public partnership to keep the shelter in the City of San Bernardino is more beneficial to the residents of the city than outsourcing to the City of Riverside's Animal Control Agency. I believe that a strategic plan to systematically renovate the current shelter building by building will bring it up to a more desirable condition while still operating day to day. Please don't misunderstand. We are adoption partners with both Riverside and San Bernardino shelters, and I believe Riverside is a wonderful shelter. However, they are already bringing in large amount of animals, and adding to the numbers that San Bernardino would bring would undoubtedly result in a higher euthanasia rate. I urge you to reconsider outsourcing and strive to find a way to keep the shelter operations in the City of San Bernardino. The nonprofit organization, San Bernardino Animal Care Organization, was formed of rescues and volunteers with the specific purpose of partnering with the city to help operate your shelter. The organization has been provided a copy of the current agreement Friends has with the City of Upland, which explains the division and responsibility and scope of work required. You can use this as a model to work off to design a partnership that can work at the City of San Bernardino Animal Shelter. Friends is very willing to answer any questions and help guide the nonprofit if desired. If you have any questions about how the public-private partnership works at Upland Animal Shelter, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lynch. And we'll remind our city clerk that timer is not on, so if we would please monitor that. Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Ortiz, followed by Philip Peterson and Thomas Fleming.
Mayor and Council, what are you guys doing? You want people to come up here so you can perk up and they can talk about positivity. Well, let me tell you what you're positively going to do. You are positively going to bankrupt us if you continue to make horrible financial decisions, like appealing the retaliation claim by the city clerk and the city attorney. Costs us more money because you have to go out to an outside firm to once again pay for your own mistakes. I have an email from Terry on June 7th to Henry telling her to wait and telling him not to do this because when Jose quit, it was a $52,000 savings per year, yet you still persisted. You have an animal shelter that is falling apart, and you want us to sit here and believe that there was some magical unsolicited report from Riverside County offering us a $700,000 savings for animal control services? We called the County of Riverside. They already told us that no talks have ever stopped between the mayor's office and the police department to the County of Riverside to outsource our shelter. Why lie? Why do we have to go to another municipality for our own transparent information in our own city? Crime is up. 4 murders in less than a month. Robberies. We have 9th Street and Waterman shut down because of a hostage situation. Because you've redistricted and you have 10 patrolmen on duty per 12 hours in a city of 210,000 people. Yet you want to go purchase 12 more vehicles and up a PO for $300,000. You bought 52 new cars after the city exited bankruptcy in 2017. 2 of those cars are supposed to be for superior management. To what? Drive around and look at crime happen? What positive things are you doing? What I see is the community out there. I see We Are the Change out putting on events trying to keep the downtown from falling apart. I see Real Talk and Real Action out cleaning up. I see neighborhood associations picking up trash, cleaning bus stops. Why? Because the city is dysfunctional, mismanaged. The employees are barely hanging on to a thread because their departments have been gutted so you could fill some weird prophecy to sit on top of a police department and say you're about public safety. You are not. Look at your reality of your situation. You are failing us. You are unqualified. Go train somewhere else. Don't do it on the backs of the residents.
Our next speaker is Philip Peterson, followed by Thomas Fleming and Joyce Seeger. Mr. Peterson, can you give us some positive, hopeful news? Your microphone.
Yeah, sorry about that. So first off, Mayor and Council, it's an honor to speak here before you tonight, and it's an honor to be in such a great city. And while I agree that that everything in San Bernardino is not perfect, by the way, there was a report just released that was talked about in the Money INC newspaper. Crime has gone down 12% over the past few years, and right now the crime is actually going down, and response rates at times have been cut by 1/3, according to the news report. There's a lot to be really grateful about in San Bernardino. And one of the other things that is going on right now, and I don't know how many of you saw this, but Mayor Valdivia going on all those trips and whatnot, and talking with people in Korea and China and Mexico. It looks like Amazon, FedEx, and UPS are all looking at using the San Bernardino airport to transport things because it is 4 times cheaper than LAX, which could bring in a projected 4,000 jobs. Look, I'm really here tonight to just pretty much say there's a lot of really good stuff going on in San Bernardino. I'm pretty tired of the negativity. And to be honest, I think the negativity is part of the problem. If you were interested in coming to San Bernardino, building a business here, or coming and moving here, and you come to a city council meeting, I mean, what are you going to think of the place? Like, I know that there are issues, I know that there are problems, I know that people are upset about things, but we need to talk about it in a more positive light because we are hurting the city by speaking negatively and trashing it. That's what we are doing here. And another thing, who here knows what this is? This is a cup from this place called Viva La Boba. They took a fairly trashy place in downtown and they revitalized, they made it beautiful, and it looks amazing. And I see tons of people going to Starbucks all the time. Go to Viva La Boba instead. We need to support the community. This is an independent business that took a shop, made it beautiful, is working their butt off, and might lose their business because we are not going there. If we actually want to make this city great, we need to support a positive message. I hope to hear more positivity tonight. Even if you have negative things to say, please say something positive because we need to attract people, and that's the only way that we are going to do it. And we need to support the independent businesses and just show people why this is a damn great place to live. Because this is a damn great place to live, and I'm pretty sick. Sorry, I'm getting kind of emotional. I'm pretty sick and tired of all the goddamn negativity. Sorry, language. Anyway, thank you so much for your time, and yeah.
Thank you. Thomas Fleming, followed by Joyce Seeger, followed by Robert Porter. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Sir, right here, who ran down with the bad knee, I'm just letting you know, you don't have to look tough. Save your knee. I'm a runner. Runners, that's an excuse, negative thinker. He's tired of it. He's goddamn tired of the negativity. No, but, the thing about the boba thing, you go and get a boba, yeah, you like to support the community, you walk outside and you see a homeless person peeing. What do? There's nothing around that area except just homeless people just walking around, and it's like, this is a ghost town, number one. And, Mr. Mayor, you said the African gentleman is a minority. It's actually, factually inaccurate. There are 2 billion Africans on Earth. In Caucasians, there are maybe a billion. There are less, That's factually inaccurate. So if you actually don't know that Africans, or actually there's more Africans than Caucasians, you don't know facts. You just don't. I just Googled that. Simple, right? The British came over here and annihilated all the Africans who were here before us. That's a fact that you might want to know. Also, the airport thing with Amazon, that's ridiculous. Why don't we give the 1 million people around here, right? There's 200,000, but there's 1 million people in this area, close by, in towns. Why don't we give them cheap flights to Las Vegas, because we're really close? Why don't we give them cheap flights to other places? Mexico, there's a lot of Mexicans in here. Why don't we give them cheap flights there, right? You're asking for money, right? Why don't you put a little bit of tax on that flight? Okay? So you do that, you get $1 million in a month. Then you can build the city you want. You can have a homeless shelter, right? You can have water dispensers on the streets, which there are none. There are no public toilets. I'm a runner. I'm sorry. It sucks that there are no public toilets anywhere, so I have to run really fast, Sometimes a bad knee, but, not today, thank God. And yeah, that's basically all I have to say. Just do your job. Just think with your heart, Don't think about, the money you're getting. Don't think about the people, the evil people that are trying to get, deals, right? Think about the beautiful people of San Bernardino. It's beautiful because of the people.
Joyce Seeger, welcome.
President of Blair Park Neighborhood Association. Our neighborhood association adjoins the Muscoobiabe Neighborhood Association, where the TAD welfare office is being built. The 210 freeway divides us, and the city's ward system divides us. Blair Park is in the 5th ward, and Muscoobiabe is in the 2nd ward. We like to say that despite the ward system and the freeway, nothing really divides us. We partner on many activities and issues. Our 2 council people support us in our efforts against the building of the TAD welfare building. Some of us have reached out to council members in the 1st, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th wards to ask for their support in our efforts. Tonight, we would like to ask these 5 council members in the 1st, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th wards. If this was happening in a residential area in your ward, and your folks were opposed to it, and you reached out and appealed to other council members in wards, wouldn't you hope that they would listen and offer support? We are all residents of the same city. When the permitting process is not done correctly in one ward, it could happen in any ward. Some of you will be up for re-election soon, and standing up for doing things the right way is something I'm sure all of you support. On this issue, will you be able to tell your constituents that you stood up for the right way to do things in this city? One more thing. When we met with the city manager on this TAD welfare building issue, we were told that we would be included in a meeting with the city and the developer. Now we have heard that we have been disinvited to this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Robert Porter. Robert Porter.
I'll read it for Robert, Mayor.
All right, hold on, Ms. Ibarra. Lynn Ware, let's get you up, Lynn. Ms. Ware, are you around? Ms. Ware and Ms. Mellon. Go ahead, Councilmember Ibarra.
Real briefly, Mr. Robert Porter wants to say, Mayor, Council, good people, I love you and I love San Bernardino. I'm rooting for us and blessings.
Thank you. Ms. Ware.
Thank you. My name is Lynn Ware, representing Muscoobiabe and Blair Park Neighborhood Associations. Some of you may wish that we would just fade away and withdraw our opposition to the welfare office at 27th and Little Mountain. We have no intention of doing that, and in fact, we continue to maintain that the development code in this case has been violated. As you begin the process of updating the general plan and the development code, It is incumbent upon you to insist that the development code be upgraded so as to be specific without room for ambiguity leading to debatable interpretation. We cannot tolerate a code which can be manipulated according to the prevailing winds, thus allowing political favors to work their way in. This fosters confusion and inconsistency and lays the groundwork for potential misconduct. That is what happened in the case of the welfare office, which we protest. The site is a commercial office zone, which is defined as a zone intended to provide for the continued use, expansion, and new development of administrative and professional offices, hospitals, and supporting retail uses, to be distinguished from commercial general. In addition, the development code stipulates that for a social services use, a CUP must be obtained. That did not happen in this case. Here's an example of inconsistencies in our planning department practices. There happens to be another county project in a commercial office zone over on Gilbert. The intended use for that office is for client counseling and medical appointments, which is a social services use. And correctly, it was required to go through the Planning Commission. In contrast, the welfare office, also in a commercial office zone, will be serving 500 or more social services clients per day, but it went to the DERC. Who made that decision? The flawed application process here is a classic example of the system gone awry. There are too many loopholes in the the development code that allow for decisions to be made by individuals whose motivations are suspect. We notice there appears to be an opaque nature to the DERC process, where it may be used as a mechanism to prevent full public disclosure of certain projects. Is there a subjective selective practice going on in the city planning department? In the city manager's August 14th investigation report to council about this welfare office permit, she uses phrases like generally speaking, consistent with prior practice, and this is a complex issue susceptible to multiple interpretations. This is the kind of ambiguity that is unacceptable. There's nothing complex about this welfare office project. There's nothing debatable here. It's a straightforward social services use and requires a CUP. Do you all have the political will to make this right, whatever the risk?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathy Mellon, followed by Leo Duarte, followed by Eric Eisenheimer. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here tonight along with many of my neighbors to again speak to our united opposition to the project and construction in our neighborhood that when completed will be a new location for the San Bernardino County Welfare Office. I realize that this administration somehow just thinks that if they stonewall and obstruct our search for facts regarding the flawed method of permit approval, we will just fade away, and any possible mistakes, fraud, or developer collusion will be swept under the rug. That is not going to happen. If we can't stop this project, we will certainly have used every legislative and legal option to expose the ineptness and possible corruption that allowed this project to happen in our neighborhood without community input. On August 17th, I sent an email to the city clerk, city manager, mayor, and 2nd and 5th Ward council members as a submittal of a public records request. Terry Ledoux replied on August 20th with responding documents to one part of that request. On August 23rd, I sent a follow-up asking for the status of the 2 pending requests. On August 26th, I received an email from Candace Alvarez stating that she could not locate my request. Ms. Alvarez responded and advised that my request had not been submitted properly, but it was now being processed. On September 9th, I received an email stating the date of my request was amended to August 27th and provided documents that I had already received. The pending items were being researched, and I would have a status by Tuesday, September 17th, yesterday. Well, I'm here, and I still have no further disclosure of requested public documents. An email sent yesterday to seek an update has not been answered. All this leaves me frustrated, angry, and disheartened. You had a chance back in August to make a bold decision that could have demonstrated this body's duty to put constituents ahead of a developer's persuasive connections. I expect the laws to be followed, and if no collusion existed, then the release of the requested documents should not be a problem. I work in customer service related job, and at times I have to admit to a customer that we made a mistake. I also have to make things right. I expect you to make things right. Follow our city development code, which means this project needs to follow the public process of a conditional use permit. Follow state law and release the requested public request documents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Leo Duarte, followed by Eric Eisenhammer, followed by Gil Bateo.
Good evening. My name is Leo Duarte, and I'm here on behalf of Inland Empire Soccer League and our soccer community. We are here to ask for our new Nunez Park soccer field rehab. Thank in advance for any help you can provide regarding our soccer community's needs. More than 12 years with our soccer field issues like broken legs and other accidents in our field with a very damaged situation. We are here to ask for a new soccer field that can really fill our perspectives, and thanks in advance to Mayor John Valdivia and the City Council. This park has made incredible improvement. Thanks for all the help and support. Our youth and people in general are really grateful and appreciate for all the upgrades in a beautiful synthetic field. Thank you all for the opportunity, and the Inland Empire Soccer League gladly appreciate all your help. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Eric Eisenhammer, followed by Gil Bateo and Rebecca Walker. Welcome, Eric.
Oh, I got it. Cool. Good evening, Council. I'm an entrepreneur. I work in communications, and I've seen our community's progress and challenges over the last decades. My company manages 2 commercial facilities in Roseville, California. I've compared office real estate prices around our state, and some of the best opportunities are right here in downtown San Bernardino. What I believe we need is to invest in our community, find entrepreneurs from around California and around the globe to restore the abandoned buildings downtown and put businesses like mine and many others in there. The mayor's working to attract these investments from all around the world, from as far away as Mexico and China. It was recently reported violent crime is down 12%. A new swim center has been opened, and a new playground is coming. With our warm weather, our central location in the region, and with a major concentration of historic buildings, San Bernardino is in a great location at the crossroads to attract entrepreneurs, to create jobs, and to grow our economy. And unfortunately, the last 10 years and even further than that have brought challenges. But if we can attract business, if we can grow our economy, if we can create jobs, ultimately that will lead to the tax revenue, that'll lead to the economic activity that will provide the resources for the services that we need. And I believe it's time to show folks that the best opportunities are not in other locations where prices are higher to begin with, but right here in San Bernardino, where a group of people, a group of entrepreneurs could come together, restore those abandoned historical buildings, grow our economy, and provide the resources to do all of the things that all of us in this room care about and want to see for our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Gil Bateo, followed by Rebecca Walker, followed by Jennifer Grant and E. Negretti. Mr. Bateo, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Honorable Mayor, Common Council. I want to start off by saying, Mayor, thank you. I We got our LED lights in the Meadowbrook area. And the reason I know that it's not just my street is because my residents have been calling me and thanking me, and I'm like, you need to thank the mayor. John, I did some research, and I realize now that you have an innovative partnership with Southern California Edison, and they reported to me that currently over 7,500 LED lights have been replaced in our city. It's not only a quality of life issue, sir, it's about safety, and thank you. Now I want to switch gears here about the Mount Vernon project. I've been involved with the project since for the last 2 years, and it's a very important project. And it's disheartening that I hear today our council member and also another council member, their concern is the train and the tracks. That's very important. It's a historical issue, but that's what the Arts and Historical Commission is for. I'm more concerned with community impact, because for the next 3 years, thousands of residents along the Mount Vernon corridor are going to be negatively impacted by this project. Therefore, because there's a vacuum in leadership from the First Ward council member, we formed a Mount Vernon corridor business group that's going to start meeting at Wampoil. Alberto Cura, the business owner, has graciously agreed to give us meeting space. And Mayor, I will invite you to our first meeting because I think it's important. You are on CTA. So there's 3 issues. There was the shuttles, and thank you for that. But I hope that we'll look at a way to sustain those shuttles after the bridge is completed, because they originally were going to issue bus passes, which was a very bad idea. The community impact, the residents, 35 residents along Kingman and Cabrera are going to lose their homes. And then the business impact. So I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here with updates because that is the community impact. That is the big deal with this project, and it's for 3 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Point well taken, Mr. Boteo. The community impacts, we appreciate your vigilance on that. Ms. Walker, welcome.
Hello. Okay, there it is. Hi, my name is Rebecca Walker, and I've been teaching in this San Bernardino for over 15 years. I recently purchased a home above 40th and by Waterman. I love the neighborhood. Everyone was telling me, don't move to San Bernardino, but I love it up there. The only problem I have is when I come down the hill and it's on 40th, it's like The Walking Dead over there. So since I'm new, I mean, I've always worked here, but I've never lived here. So as a new resident, I was wondering, is there something in place to attack the homeless issue that's going on over there? At the park, I can't even take my grandbaby there because there's homeless people there camping
Ma'am,
out.
are you talking about Wildwood or
I'm
Tom
talking about
Gould?
Wildwood.
Wildwood.
Yeah,
okay.
the Wildwood area. And I was just there earlier, and the guy was saying, yeah, the homeless people burned down the bathroom and they repainted, but the toilets don't work. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I can't even take her, to the park, McDonald's. There's people hanging out over there. So I was just wondering what's in place. We do go up to by the university, and there's all kinds of new places to eat up there. So I'm wondering, is there any incentives that we're giving to companies to come down to like the 40th area or Highland area? And that was just it. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Ms. Walker, we appreciate your comments. We'll have Dawn follow up with you and get your point of contact information.
Okay.
I want to talk to you about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Grant, Jennifer Grant, welcome. Followed by E. Negrete, followed by Amelia Lopez.
Thank you. I have been living here for about 2 years now. I'm a homeowner in the 6th District area. And my complaint is, behind my house, there's an easement that belongs to the county or the city. And there's a lot of dry grass and big, tall, dry trees. And I'm just afraid that one day it's going to be a fire over there. And it's nothing I can do about it because it's not my property, but it's behind me. And I've been calling and asking for someone to please come out and clean that area up and cut down those trees. We don't need them behind our homes like that because it is a hazard for us all that lives there. And then my other complaint is our streets. They're just full of potholes. One of my nieces was driving her car and she got a flat tire because she ran over a pothole. Can we get our streets paved like the people up on the hill? I don't live up there, but I've been up there and they got nice streets and they can drive really nice. Can we just please get that? Because our streets are terrible all over there, even by the hospital. For a hospital to have a big pothole when you're making a right going down towards the elementary school, your car going to hit a big dip. So I'm just asking, can we just get our little potholes or streets paved real nice? I know it probably don't cost that much to pave the streets because I seen them getting paved up the ways. Can we get it done down there? Thank you.
Grant, Ms. Grant, 1700 block of Harrington Avenue. I won't give you your personal address here.
That's all right.
Ma'am, we will, if you'll see Jackie Abood here, we'll get right on it on potholes, and she's our legislative field rep.
Okay.
We want to talk to you, and we want to service those needs. Thank you.
And a lot of parked abandoned cars too. I've complained once, and they sitting out there. I had a truck parked in front of my house for a year. I wait to see how long it's going to sit there before they moved it.
We will get on it.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ms. Negrete, welcome with your sign.
Just for you. You know, you're bringing the artistic side of many residents. Yep. And this is literally just for you. This is what I want to bring out to the council's attention. Item 17 and 18. It's an increase of almost $1 million for SBPD. In October of last year, they had a budget amount, and earlier this year, it was increased. I want to remind you of that because it was for vehicles. Now, when it comes to item 18, and not just 18, but 17, which is $230,000, I know something was brought up regarding putting cameras, but the concern with bringing up cameras, which is a great idea, yes, if you had the staff. However, we're still short over 100 officers. To say that we're going to spend $230,000, is that really something that's beneficial to the city right now when our city continues to go in a hole and we see that? Is that really the wise idea to give SBPD another $1 million? The next one is item 19. Item 19 states that it's for a landfill gas collection treatment system to bring it back, and it's been inactive. I looked at the documents in the agenda, and it stated that there were significant penalties back then because of the need of what it had. Is that something that we really need at this time, or is this another let's scratch Vertex back and give them a place to dump more waste? Because everyone can see in the 460s who has been receiving good amounts for campaign contributions, which has been, the majority of them has been John Valdivia. Now, on number 20, the purchase and sale of the joint escrow for the full fee acquisition for the parcel that's going to widen 40th Street. If you look at 40th Street, some of you have been through there. There was a marijuana shop right at the corner of 40th and Electric. If you're going to purchase those two parcels, which are closer to Johnson, how the heck is spending $330,000 for two parcels going to help the bottlenecking that's happening at the corner of 40th and Electric? Is that really going to, benefit the city at this time? Not only that, but think about it, right? Because the city has been selling parcels already that the city owns. Every time I see the sale of the city property going out to private investors, they go from anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000, and this has been this year. So it's not like I'm asking you to recollect historical information from past years. This has been this year. This year, the city has been selling property for anywhere between $20,000 and $30,000 for almost nothing. These has been allowed. So why would the city want to pay for two parcels, $330,000? Why not counter or offer, if anything, offer them the $20,000 or $30,000, just like the city has been selling other property? But biggest one, I want you to really think about it. Would that $330 really help to stop the bottlenecking at that corner? It won't.
Thank you. Amelia Lopez, welcome. You want to talk about Neighborhood Leadership Academy?
The Leadership Academy, right on. Yes, on September 12th, this past Thursday, we had our grand opening of the Neighborhood Services Program at City Hall. I'd like to thank everybody who was there and supported us, our neighborhood associations, our city electives who were there, our city staff, as well as our community partners and our supporters who are helping us to make this happen. We also kicked off the Neighborhood Leadership Academy, which is the inaugural first class that we are going to be doing starting October. But the clock is ticking, and I'm here to remind residents that if they are interested, this academy is no cost to residents. They will learn skills that will empower them to make a difference in their neighborhood. No previous experience is required. They just have to have the passion and the willingness to commit to the training and the desire to make a difference. For more information, they can call me, Amelia Lopez, at 909-266-6377. I can take their application over the phone. They can also go to City Hall over at 290 North D Street, the Veneer Tower, and on the first floor they have the clerks there at the Neighborhood Services Center have the applications. They can fill them out. It's very simple. We're very enthused. We have 18 individuals who have already signed, and we're looking for a few more good residents. So I thank you.
Thank you very much. Clementina Pina. There you are. Welcome, ma'am. Jackie Corsock, followed by Shirley Harlan and Luis Ojeda. Welcome.
Hello, good evening. My name is Clementina Pina, as you hear. I'm a neighbor right here of San Bernardino, and I'm a simple neighbor, so I'm not very educated in all the development situation. But one of my questions is, when they start building that new, I call welfare office, I mean, why is the need of the city to spend money on new buildings when basically, you know, I want to be positive as everybody say, but you can. Why that money don't go to work on maintenance some of the streets? I mean, we have empty buildings like the Lowe's building right there on University. If it's necessary for another welfare office, why they don't occupy what is already in, instead of spending, you know, so much money? I live in that corner I'm a neighbor of Joyce and Lynn. I don't remember when is the last time that I see a maintenance crew fixing the street. I have a couple elderly neighbors that one suffer neuropathy. She blamed her accidents walking on the street due to her illness, but the thing is, her accidents being due through the holes on the street. You know, I wish you guys take a walk and just go and check every single corner. You know, this last time, especially with the fire that we have not long ago and everybody was evacuated, you know, it was scary just to think, you know, how people is going to live, how we going to act with all the streets that need the maintenance. You know, the other thing is the trees. Why are those trees never cut? I've been cutting my trees. I've been spending my own money. But now every time I open my bills, the water bill went so high. It's supposed to be lower once you guys split the trash from the water bill. Well, the bills are going higher. My taxes are going higher, but nothing get done. We're supposed to be off bankruptcy. Where is the money now to spend on maintenance? The city. I remember when our last mayor talked about, you know, bankruptcy and need. Well, we're not on bankruptcy anymore. When you jump on the freeway, we are bumper to bumper. That means it's a lot of money in the city because every single person, either owner or renter, pay taxes. So maybe we, instead of building new offices that we don't need, maybe that money should be used on maintenance, what they really matter.
Our next speaker is Jackie Corsock, followed by Shirley Harlan. There you are, Shirley. And Luis Ojeda. Jackie, welcome.
Thank you. Well, I wanted to say something positive because I did vote for you, John, Mr. Mayor. Okay. So what I wanted to do was come in here and speak for the animals. Because I did hear earlier this year that you were going to outsource to Riverside County, and that that is a high shelter that euthanizes animals. So anyways, I wanted to come in here and say, could you all please work harder to help the animals that live here in San Bernardino? Okay, and I saw that there was a grant that was approved, or you were looking for the grant for $8.5 million for the Sukhumi Lake, okay? And I said, you know what, the priority should really be the animals. So I don't know if there's any way you can get grants for the animals, you know, with the shelters. Are you guys able to answer that?
Ms. Korsak, I've actually spoken with a few state legislators on it.
Okay. So, good. For a grant?
We're speaking to our state legislators to see if there's any monies and grants available.
Thank you. All right. Or else outsource to these people that are here for Friends and also San Bernardino County. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker, Ms. Harlan. Welcome, Ms. Harlan.
Yes, I'm speaking on Agenda 9 on packet, page 36, the animal shelter. I'm starting with something from Mahatma Gandhi. The greatest of nations and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. This is a staff report you're receiving. The staff shows you 3 options. Option 1 is just long-term and removes the police department. It is weak. Option 2, bullet 1 is the short-term, is the best of the 3, needed now. Facility repairs and the money has been there waiting for action for a long, long time. And you've been given some specific costs of the repairs. Bullet 2 in that option is long-term, engages the architectural firm to evaluate a modern shelter, and that will take a period of several years to accomplish. And I believe the public community, supports a modern shelter and can be helpful as shown by their constant public appearance here. Good idea. Meets the city goal toward number 4, dealing with vision for planned, balanced, and sustainable city. And you have not really presented a vision for this city. It's lacking. But this is one of them. The city of San Bernardino vision needs much more communication and transparency attention. Many of the stakeholders that need to be at this complicated issue have not been there. Now, bullet 3 of option 2 needs the police to return to policing and not managing an animal shelter. Many have come to this mic and supported that move. And there really is no third option. The first 2 bullets are the same as those stated in number 2, and the animal control program operation is only more detailed explained of the option 2 third bullet. A lot of redundancy in this report for you. Animal shelter services are complicated. I have been to the meetings and listened on city media to the frustration of our animal control commissioners as they try to prepare recommendations for you. The city staff report is weak. The public has demonstrated a very special concern that doing the right things for their animals has special meaning for them. They express hopefulness that a modern shelter here will bring the jobs, the families, and growth. It is the type of branding that is priceless. My last comment is...
Thank you, ma'am.
I want to give you a quote from John Muir, Mayor.
Ma'am,
any glimpse into the life of an animal quickens our own and makes it so much more the larger and better in every day.
Thank
by
you, ma'am.
John Muir.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Luis Ojeda. Mr. Ojeda, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I have a lot of good news and bad news. Mix it up. So first, I want to invite the general public. Oh, by the way, thank you, City Manager, to showing my ugly face now again. So we have a meeting for the street vendors tomorrow in partnership with the city and the county at 6 p.m. in the all council chambers. So we've been having a lot of issues with street vendors, illegal street vendors, and I need you guys to address the problem because I've been supporting them, and that was one of the reasons why we created SB Food Fest, that we were having it every single Saturday for almost 2.5 months. And there are several residents in the city that have reached out to me because it's becoming a safety concern nowadays, okay, because it's getting out of hand. So we need to address that. Another thing is that I want to invite the public is that we're having a cleanup on Friday at 8 o'clock. We're going to be meeting on the Core Square. It's 4 projects cleanup, so we're going to need volunteers. It's in partnership with several groups as well with the mayor's office. And one thing that I want to point out, earlier, you guys, I think we have a new director for the symphony. And I'll be honest with you guys, I never seen the California Theater before, and it's beautiful. And I went there last Saturday to, to talk to the person in charge to see if they can communicate what we're doing down the street for, course, the SD Food Fest. And one thing that I noticed, and I wish that you can address it, is we have, fancy people coming in, all dressed up, looking good. And they were walking through the parking lot, and it's full of trash everywhere. Bunch of teenagers playing with the skateboards, blocking traffic and being a nuisance and very disrespectful. And I talked to several people that were from LA, from San Diego, Santa Monica, and that's the perception that they're getting from us, because we really need to have the security back, the company that we had before. Because now that we're doing SD Food Fest, I can see that some homeless, they're claiming right to parts of the downtown. And I'm telling you, they're little by little, they're ruining it more than what it is right now. So please, I need you guys to address that because, right now it looks decent, it needs work, but you got people playing on the stage with skateboards and, they get violent, they get aggressive when you say, hey, you need to get out of here. So we really need to have security back. So please.
Thank you, Mr. Ojeda.
I've got a question for Mr. Ojeda.
Yes, sir.
You talk about this food fest. What day is it on? What are the times?
Every Saturday, 6 to 11.
Now, do you have any security problems there?
No, because I hire my own.
How many security people do you have?
I got, depends, from 4 to 6. Armed.
And anybody can come. It's free.
It's free, yes. It's
Okay,
a low
thank you.
It's a low. Oh, by the way, you guys missed a good event last Saturday, Mexican Independence Day. We have like almost 500 people. It was great, especially when you have 70% of the population. Only Sandra show up. So thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Mr. Ojeda. Our next speaker is Hilda. Ms. Wetland, welcome. It's great to see you.
It must be animal shelter time, right? Because I'm here. I only come in when it's the animal shelter. And it's because I know these people. They work 8 hours a day and work rescuing animals the other 8. They put more income that they earn sometimes into the animal community. These rescue people are the salt of the earth. I know them. I don't rescue animals, but I know them. I was going to talk about the animal shelter, but I changed my mind because I'm going to say something that for 20 years my family didn't talk about. I came from Cuba when I was 14, and at 14 years old I went into sort of a concentration camp in Havana. That's the part of Havana you don't get to see in the news. At 14 years old, the clothes I put in the day I went in, those were all the clothes I had, a short and a shirt. 54 days later, I arrived in the United States with the same shorts and the same shirt. I never took them off. I couldn't. It rained every day. It dried on me every day. Every single day for 54 days. For 5 days, we didn't eat anything. Just laid there in the mud. And at 5th day, we had a potato, a raw potato. That's what Castro thought was appropriate for people who had not eaten for 5 days. The reason I survived 54 days, and when the Coast Guard picked me up out of the sea, I was 92 pounds, goody. It's because my father kept saying, when they take everything away from you, everything, your clothes, your food, when they put you on a beach by yourself with nothing on, you have your word. Don't ever forget that. Mayor, you went on the radio. You said, I quote word by word, when I become mayor, we are going to make sure we keep the shelter here and that we restore it. You said that before the election. When I become mayor, I will make sure that the shelter stays here. Mayor, when you're left on a beach with nothing that you have but your clothes, you have to stand by your word. All of them can vote no. You have to vote for the shelter to stay because you gave your word. If nothing else, you gave your word. The city can come down, but you gave your word. You cannot be the one that decides for the vote to go out. That's what I decided to talk about on something that I've never talked about. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Chad White. Chad White, you're up. Followed by Amanda Bermudez, followed by Jesus Medina. Welcome.
How you guys doing today? It's been a while, so I want to say this week was a great week. We're a couple more weeks, and we're going to be in active business in San Bernardino, and we can start giving back to this community. One of the 16 licenses, finally. One of 3 or 4 that have actually submitted a plan check and ready to move forward. For certain reasons, not because of this dais, maybe the previous dais not moving things forward. But we want to thank staff for getting us to this point, and we're ready to start giving every first dollar that we can in revenue and taxes to this community. First year, we're looking at over $500,000 in taxes and revenue to you guys. So we're excited about that. We're looking at about another $500,000 in living wages, salaries for all our employees that are going to be working in that facility. We just want to invite you guys, anyone at the dais that wants to come by. We did have our final walkthrough for the distro on Hunts Avenue, and we'll hopefully be operational in the next couple of weeks. So we passed with flying colors, and again, I want to thank staff for all of everything they've gone through to get us to this point, and I want to thank the dais for everything you guys have done. And let's keep moving this forward, and let's not hold anything to artificial caps, and let's allow more businesses to come into the city and allow these businesses to give back the way we want to. So thank you guys.
Thank
definitely.
you, sir.
What's the specific address on Hunts?
It's public, so it's 2211 Hunts Lane, and it's a distribution company for cannabis, and purely a distribution company. It's not a retail storefront. It's not a cultivation or any of that.
East or west side of the street?
Be on the south side of the 10 freeway.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bermudez, welcome. Followed by Jesus Medina.
Thank you. This is my first time speaking. I'm speaking for the animals because I love animals dearly, and they can't speak for themselves. I happen to be someone that likes to rescue dogs. I have 3 rescues, and I love them. And I cannot imagine not having a shelter in San Bernardino. However, today, when she just mentioned that you promised to keep our animal shelter, that makes me feel hopeful that you're going to keep your word, because she just kind of put you on blast. You reminded everyone. But I have faith that you're going to follow your word and that we're going to get to keep our shelter. And I'll continue to follow up. Sometimes I love animals more than I love people because they're loyal. But I'm hoping to keep this shelter open. I'm speaking for all the dogs out there. I love rescuing dogs, and I like that I have a shelter to take them to, and I hope that you keep your word. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for coming down tonight. Our next speaker is Jesus Medina. I don't see him. Jesus Medina? Going once, twice, three times? All right, at this time we're going to take a 10-minute break, 10-minute recess. Okay. We'll invite the members of the public to please take their seats. We will now reconvene our open session. We'll ask all council members please to return to the desk. And Mr. Medina, you just stopped me, sir. Come on down. We'll recognize you for your brief moment here. Welcome, sir. We called you and you're absent attending to other community affairs. We appreciate your service. Welcome, Mr. Medina.
There you go. Well, thank you, everybody. Good night. Just want to say really quick, that this Saturday we had a great event with the SB Food Fest. Just want to mention everybody who went. Thank you for the support. I know that Sandra went. Mr. Figueroa texted me and said that he was not going to be able to go because he was working. But just want to, throw it right there. When we get together with the city and when we engage with the community, we can get great things done. And it was great. Hopefully we can collaborate with the city more, and hopefully we can embrace, all the cultural backgrounds in the city. So, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for giving me the opportunity to speak. And good night, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Medina. We appreciate you. All right, let's move on to our staff reports. Item number 6 is to instruct Evan Brooks Associates to submit an application for SB2. Ms. Ledoux.
Mike Huntley, our Community and Economic Development Director, will give this report.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Again, the item in front of you tonight is a request the City Council and the Mayor actually adopt a resolution to direct the City Manager to move forward to work with Evan Brooks and Associates to submit an application for the SB2 planning grant application with the State of California. So with that, if the City Council remembers, of course, what you do, the City Council has authorized Community and Economic Development Department to move forward with the RFP on the city's comprehensive general plan. In regards to the processing of the comprehensive general plan, the general plan is actually a long-range planning document that actually sets out the long-range goals and objectives for the city over the next 20 years. The city was I'm lucky enough to have the State of California award $3 million to the city to actually move that project forward. So as staff had looked at the potential grant application for the SB2, we looked at what would be the best opportunity for the city to submit to actually get award of that. So all things being equal, the next important project that go hand in hand with the comprehensive general plan would be to update the development code. So as such, the item in front of you tonight is to adopt a resolution, direct the city manager to work with our consultant and with staff to actually move this forward. Now, I know that there was some concerns associated with the development code and its current status. And what I'd like to do is provide a little bit of clarity before we moved on this item. Now, the city's development code, which is really the implementation tool of the city's comprehensive general plan, was last updated back in 1991. Since that time, there's been a variety of code amendments that have been done to the development code. There really hasn't been a comprehensive update to that code. In 2014, the City Council did authorize funding in the amount of about $160,000 to update the development code. The city had retained the services of Ecoterra Consulting to assist with that, and the city started the process in 2014. Now, the process took about 3 to 4 years, and staff did have a lot of meetings with community groups, with the Planning Commission, and there were updates provided to the City Council. At this point today, and I know there were some questions in regards to how far that process got, that draft development code's about 75 to 80% complete today. And I do actually have a copy right here if council had some questions, but we do have that doc. So with that said, in 2018, there was a change in management within the department that I now oversee, and the update to the development code came to a halt, so to say, until a new director was hired. Now that I'm on board, we're looking at this, and since council's already authorized us to move forward with a comprehensive update to the general plan, it also makes sense to move forward with continuing and completing the development code update. And the reason why I think that is the case, and you may get some people who argue, well, you should have finished it back in 2017, 2018, but really I think there's some points that need to be made. And some of those points are that the state of California over the last 3 years has made some substantial changes to housing legislation. And really at the end of the day, if we were to move that forward, we probably would have missed incorporating those components. In addition, as we move forward with the update to the general plan, I guarantee, based on public feedback, that City Council is going to provide other policy direction to us on land use policy. So really this is the appropriate time to finish the update in unison with the general plan update. It just really makes sense, right? So with that said, staff is recommending council adopt the resolution to direct the city manager to move forward and submitting the SB2 grant. Within the staff report, it does outline the grant. It does identify eligible projects, the use of the grant funds and such. The grant itself would be due to the state of California, to the Department of or Housing and Community Development by November 30th of this year. So staff's recommendation is you just direct us to move forward, apply for the grant. Hopefully we'll get that. And that will mean that, one, the state of California has already approve funds to update the general plan, and two, hopefully they'll approve this, and then the state will also pay for us to update, or I should say finish the update to the development code. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huntley. I think this is an opportunity for our city council to make and initiate the efforts for community development and support the resources that are necessary for a good comprehensive plan. I think this works in tandem with the opportunities for development, growth, and safety and business of our community. And so I'd strongly recommend that our council move forward with this. Councilman Nichol.
Yeah, a couple of questions. I know that we did approve an agreement with EcoTerra. Are we still engaged with them at all? Have their services been terminated? What's the status?
Well, actually, the agreement with EcoTerra, I believe, expired either in April or June of 2018, right? So once the contract had expired, staff had picked it up and they continue to work on that document. As an example, we'll bring the accessory dwelling unit section up, moved forward, as well as our signed ordinance as well. But about that same time, we lost my predecessor too, which kind of put this on hold. So staff's been kind of working on it, but it's been somewhat on hold.
So what's going to happen with those updates that we've paid for and that were worked on? Are we just going to...
All we're doing is we're piggybacking off the work already done. I have the document in front of me right here.
Okay.
We're going to be adding to it. I think that the document's pretty solid. I spent some time and went through it. But I think, like I indicated, there are some changes in state legislation that need to be wrapped into this doc. And the other comment, too, is I think there's some sections that need to be even more innovative to look at the new development trends.
Well, and I have many questions. I'm going to limit it this evening, though, but we've been told in the context of certain projects that are underway currently in the city that our development code is, quote unquote, ambiguous. Based on your professional opinion and experience in other cities, is our development code ambiguous, and what are we going to do to reduce the quote unquote ambiguity within our code? Is that going to be, I personally don't know what ambiguous means, but it sounds to me like we've got certain aspects of our code that we need to tighten up. Is that your opinion as well?
I would agree with you. So I've been with the city almost 6 months now. I've had a chance to go through different chapters of it, and I will agree with you that there are some parts that really need to be cleaned up. You know, I don't want to get into the TAD facility either, but to get the answer, you had to go, to get the answer was a roundabout way, and that's not a way for a code to be laid out. Things need to be straightforward, clear, and more concise. Unfortunately, codes aren't perfect. Periodically, there will be ambiguities, which typically in the beginning of most development codes or zoning codes will actually have a chapter where there is an ambiguity. It gives the authority usually to the community development director or potentially at that point up to the planning commission to make those kinds of determinations. But I would agree that it needs to be cleaned up. So what we're currently implementing is the code that I think needs more cleaning up. What I have in front of me here is a lot of the amended code. already, but I still think we need to spend more time and really focus on that and continue to clean it up.
Two other questions. My understanding is for the Ecoterra contract, we established an advisory committee composed of a number of individuals. What is the status of that committee? Do we anticipate continuing that committee in the context of potential update to the code? Who selects the members of that committee? What is the process of putting together that advice? I think you call it General Plan Advisory Committee, or is there something in addition to that? I know there were a group of individuals that did provide input on the Ecoterra updates. What's the status of their involvement and going forward?
So based on the records, and I've gone through memos from my predecessor that went to the city manager and so on and so on, my understanding is they were having monthly meetings as they were amending and updating the development code, right? And those individuals, I'm not sure how they were selected at that point. I'd have to go back and do some research first. So as it applies to that, I think most of those individuals are still around and still can participate with us. Kind of the flip to that is actually the general plan update. Most cities, as they move that process forward, actually establish a general plan advisory committee. That's something I've talked to the city manager about, and it's something that we do want to do. What we'll do is we'll sit down, we'll come up with the criteria, then present that to city council. But we are looking for citizens to participate in that process.
And the last question I have relates to our DERC, Development Environmental Review Committee. As has been expressed by the public, there's a great concern about that process, how projects are determined as to whether or not they go through the DERC or they go forward to Planning Commission. What are your thoughts in terms of potentially addressing some of those potential deficiencies that may occur in the process? Who can or should be on that DERC? And should there be some mechanism for notifying our Planning Commission, even though they may not be specifically hearing items or considering items that would be going to DERC, at least being provided notice of what items are going forward to DERC in advance?
For the council's benefit, actually, there are specific provisions within our development code that stipulate those kinds of cases, and it does actually establish thresholds, and we actually will review those thresholds as projects come in. But it sounds,
that's a staff determination.
As well, it's a staff determination, but that's what's published within the code. So I think, what I'm hearing from council is that we should at least take a look at that as part of our update to the development code. We should look more closely at that, look at the thresholds, see how those apply. It's kind of what I'm getting from council. So,
all right, thank you.
Councilman Mulvihill.
Yes, Mr. Huntley. The SB2 funds for cities over 200,000, which we are, the maximum that we can request is $625,000, non-competitive. It's there for the taking. Now, we're going to have the development code. How much do you think that's going to cost?
In our discussions already with the consultant, we're saying we're looking at $300,000.
Okay. Now, we also, there's other good projects that we can ask for grants to follow up on. I'm thinking about the accessory dwelling units regulation. That would also help us out with our RENA allocation. Right now, coming down from HCD, option 1, we have 15,000 units we have to come up with. Option 2, we've got 16,000 units to come up with, and then some change. We could request. Could you put in another grant? November 30th is the deadline.
Correct.
Can we put in another grant for the ADU regulation?
So staff is actually currently working with the city attorney's office on that. It's gone to the Planning Commission a few times, and the Planning Commission has now blessed it, and that code amendment will be coming in front of the City Council.
We can still, because this hasn't become a regulation, we're still working on it, and we can apply for it. There's no reason, say $300,000, that means that $325,000 is going to go back to the government. It's non-competitive.
Sure.
There's no other people coming. Also, I've always said we need a specific plan for the Central City Mall property and tie it into the transit center. That's something that could easily go into the general plan. We've got, presumably, 11 proposals. Why don't we commission a firm to do a specific, and then this is another, you say the ADU is kind of ripening. We don't have a specific plan for the downtown. We don't have anything to show these proposals what we want. To really invite interest, it's good to, this is why we're going to redo the general plan, because people look at the general plan and they say, oh, you know what you want. We don't have a specific plan for the tying in the Central City Mall project and the transit center and the surrounding areas of that. I would suggest that ADU would be a viable project, but also too, I think if we could use that other $325,000 for a consultant, and if you need help, I can I help you write the grant. I think we can get a consultant for $325,000 to do a specific plan tying the Central City Mall property. It's 43 acres within most of it's within a quarter mile of the Metrolink station. It's a transit-oriented development. There's going to be state grant monies, and we can show them once we get the plan done. Can we do that? And I guess ask the city manager. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think you can amend the vote to include that if Mike thinks it's something we can handle with the grant writer.
I think we need to step back and take a look at that specific part.
Let's not take too long, because November 30th is when we have to have it in.
Right.
But there is $625,000 non-competitive, and we need income. And we could use a specific plan for the downtown area that we could show these proposers what we're looking for. And we're in that process. It's kind of putting the cart before the horse. But the point is, I don't want to see $325,000 go back to the government. It's non-competitive. It's there to take if we can come up with a good idea. And the point is, it's all for housing. And the TOD is going to be housing as retail, and it's innovative. They're looking for something innovative, some innovative solutions about housing. And I can see that we could have multi-story buildings for apartments, for affordable housing, and so forth. I just see that, and housing. We've got 10,000 government employees, school district, county, people who come to the city and then leave at night. I bet you there would be enough people that would want to live close where they could walk to work, particularly millennials that don't want to necessarily drive from Yucaipa or Rancho or wherever it happens to be. And getting people living downtown is going to improve downtown. One of the reasons why downtown is unsafe, or the perception is that nobody's, we'll walk out there after this meeting is over with, and we're the only ones on the street, except maybe the police department. Okay?
Thank
and
you,
the thugs.
Thank you, Councilman.
So what I'm saying is that, can we get another application for a specific plan? And if you need it, I'll write it for you.
All right. Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other comments? If not, move for approval from Councilman Charette.
Second.
All right. As noted, members would please cast their votes.
I can't see your vote, so anybody who did not vote yes, could you indicate that, please? Anybody vote?
So ordered, so moved, by
awesome.
full consensus.
Full consensus.
Thank you. Our next item, item number 7, is the March 3rd, 2020 primary municipal election. Ms. Ledoux.
Our city clerk is going to give this presentation.
Thank you, City Manager. So when we set the budget for
2019, 2020, we did not have the full numbers from the county on what that cost would be. And so part of this item has to do with amending the budget, $27,000. The county did get back to us with what that was going to cost. It was a little bit more expensive than we expected, and it was later than your budget hearings. The second item on this is that the county requires that the city specifically ask for them to conduct the election and consolidate it, and then it goes to the Board of Supervisors for them to approve it. So that's what this item is, and it's to cover the March 2020 election.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Questions? If not, is there a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
All right, as noted.
Where's the money coming from?
I believe that would be a question for the city manager.
General fund reserves. I have to vote no.
All right.
Okay, so
Members would
I
cast their
had
vote.
that Mr. Nickel moved it, and it was seconded by Mr. Mulvihill.
No, by Richard.
Seconded by Ms. Richard? Okay. And I heard Mr. Charette was voting no. Is everybody else voting yes?
Ms. Hannah, is our electronic system not working?
It is not.
Okay. All right, so why don't we do it this way? If there's objectors, please state your objection so we can keep on moving. If there are any objectors, I think Mr. Charette is objecting. That's fine.
I have
Members?
it as 6-1.
Very good. Item passes and so ordered. Item number 8, Meadowbrook Pedestrian Bridge. Mr. Kishta, Ms. Ledoux.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, the item before you tonight is the Meadowbrook Bridge project, or the Meadowbrook Pedestrian Bridge project. And just on July 17, 2019, the City Council gave direction to staff to utilize the monies received from insurance claim to obtain construction cost estimates for the following item. The number one is to rehabilitate the existing bridge as it stands. The second one is to rehabilitate the soccer field at Nunes Park. The fourth one is the rehabilitation of the parking lot at the Nunes Park, and then rehabilitation of the parking lot of Lyle Creek Park. Staff went out and we did our calculations, and we come up with the cost to rehabilitate the existing bridge as it stands right now stands at $76,438. The rehabilitation of the soccer field to replace the synthetic soccer field at Nunes Park stands at $425,000, and to rehabilitate the parking lot at Nunes Park, it stands at $175,000. The rehabilitation of the parking lot at Lytle Creek Park, it stands at $210,000. So if the city have received $812,000 from the insurance money for the Meadowbrook Bridge after it's burned, and if we do the calculations, the money will only include the item 1 through 4 in your packet agenda, with exception to number 5, which is the rehabilitation of the parking lot at Lyle Creek Park, which stands at $210,000. So the staff is seeking directions in how you guys want us to do with this project. And then after the discussion and after we agree to what we need to do, staff will come up with the recommendation of what we need to do for to appropriate the money for this.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Kishta. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, thank you. I remember back in July when we discussed this item the first time, I made it clear that I did not vote for it, but I made it clear, we have a park in the 6th Ward, Nicholson Park, that is in dire needs of repair. The park hasn't been watered. There's a lot of issues going on with the park, and I agree with that, but I also know that this is a park within the city of San Bernardino, and we need to take care of all of our parks. The residents that live around Nicholson Park, they do not have a place for their children to go and play. So before we start talking about adding soccer fields, I believe that we need to make sure all of our parks are functional first. And so one of the things that I would like to do is I would make a motion that we amend the items contained on packet page 24 to include updated provisions whereby we amend item 3 to now read, rehabilitate Nicholson Park and appropriate $150,000 for various park improvements. And furthermore, we need to amend item 5 to read, I'm okay with the rehabilitation of the parking lot at Lido Creek Park because that is necessary. But I do not agree with putting in a new soccer field when the park is in dire need of just really simple watering, an irrigation system, maybe some tree trimming, and it's just really alarming that the park was allowed to go unattended after all of the requests that I made. So I'm asking my council members here to think about allocating some money, $150,000 to Nicholson Park.
Very good.
If I may, Mayor.
Motion?
Before I second this, I'd like to first acknowledge, and I want to show my appreciation for the Mayor Pro Tem's leadership in this case. Of course, I stand to win, and my residents stand to win by putting in this soccer field at Nunes Park. But the Mayor Pro Tem and myself, we toured Nicholson Park. She made me see, she showed her leadership and her passion for her community, and she made me realize that it's not just about taking care of my parks in my ward, but taking care of the people here at San Bernardino, because when we make these decisions, it affects everyone. So I applaud your leadership, Mayor Pro Tem, and I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
All right, very good. As noted, Council Member Ibarra. There you are.
I just have one question. Do we know what kind of work we can do with the remainder over at Nicholson? The 425, if we were to, or it's like 200,000, I think. Is that
Can I make a friendly amendment to the motion? I'd like that the remaining balance be used as a contingency fund, so that there is, if there is projects that go over budget, we don't have to bring it before the council again for approval.
Yes, and I second that.
No. It's the remaining balance from that 810.
Contingency.
The contingency. No. Contingency.
Just available somewhat as a revert.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly.
So, Mayor, based on the discussion that I heard, I would like the staff recommendation is to appropriate $40,480 to complete the design of the bridge. Appropriate.
Mr. Kista, yes, items number 1 and 2 are as printed in the backup on packet page 24. The amendment comes on 3 that we slash the 425, add Nicholson Park for 150, and that item number 5 there is printed is amended so that it's lots at parking lot at Lido Creek. All right, with those amendments, and let's push it forward. Discussion or call for the question. Any objectors to it?
So on item 8, I have a substitute motion was made by Mr. Shard. It was seconded by Mr. Sanchez, and it appears to have passed unanimously.
Very good. Moving on to item number 9, the Animal Control Program update. Ms. Ledoux.
Mayor and Council, as you're aware, this discussions regarding the animal control operation and shelter go back to June of 2018 when we brought you a proposal from Riverside County. Since that time, many things have changed, and Rebecca Kramer has worked with the police department to provide you with an update and some options for the shelter and the operations.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight we are presenting options for your consideration that begin to address the needs of the city's animal shelter and animal control program operations within the confines of the city's resources. The fiscal year 1920 operating budget for the city's animal control program is just over $2,563,000 with a projected revenue offset of $319,500 for licensing and shelter fees. The city's current operating budget does not include funding needed for deferred maintenance of the city's shelter facility or provide the resources required for on-site veterinary care services and a robust licensing program, including the personnel, equipment, and infrastructure. As discussed previously, the city's animal shelter is over 50 years old and does not meet modern shelter standards. At present, a significant capital investment would be required to support the city's animal shelter, which exceeds the $642,000 currently available in the Animal Shelter Improvement Fund. Presented this evening are a number of options available to the Mayor and City Council to begin to address the needs of the shelter facility as well as program operations, including contracting with Riverside County for shelter services.
In May 2019, Riverside County Board of Supervisors declined to approve an agreement to provide animal shelter field and licensing services to the city of San Bernardino under the proposed terms. And the months that followed, Riverside County completed a fee study to confirm the cost of providing animal services. This study resulted in the implementation of a revised rate structure. Using the new rate structure, Riverside County has provided the city with a revised proposal limited to providing shelter services at a projected annual cost of just over $1.3 million. Based on the city's 2017 impound rate. It is important to note that the city's impound rate fluctuates on an annual basis, resulting in the cost of service varying from year to year. Given the projected cost of Riverside County to provide shelter service exceeds the annual operating cost for the city's fiscal year 1920 animal shelter budget, staff does not recommend entering into an agreement with Riverside County at this time. Excluding this option, there are several alternatives available to address the needs of both the shelter facility and animal control operations. In addition to continuing to engage the County of San Bernardino and other municipalities in the region and/or nonprofit organizations in the development of a shared animal shelter, staff recommends Council adopt one of three options identified on packet pages 35 through 36 and the option table presented on packet page 617. Option 1 would require the council appropriate $14,800 for the Animal Shelter Improvement Fund and direct the city manager to engage Miller Architectural Corporation.
Ms. Kramer?
Yes.
Let me interrupt you so that we can follow you. So, city council members, if you have this delivered to your council desk, this is what she's referring to. This simplifies the packet pages, and so if we could, please.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mayor. So this would be to engage Miller Architectural Corporation to evaluate the cost of rebuilding the shelter to meet modern shelter standards, including kennel design, climate control, ventilation systems, quarantine, and animal care facilities. It's anticipated that the evaluation will take 30 to 45 days to complete. Following the completion of the evaluation, staff will provide with the mayor and city council with an opportunity to review, discuss, and provide further direction regarding the shelter. Option 1 also calls for the City Council to direct the City Manager to develop a plan of action, including a proposed budget and resources needed to effectively operate the animal shelter field and licensing program independent of the Police Department. This option would require replacing the Animal Control Program Manager position with a director-level position to oversee program operations, with an estimated cost increase of $95,000, including salary and benefits. It is also important to note that while the majority of the animal shelter field and licensing services can be shifted to the newly established department following the appointment of a director, dispatch services will need to be retained under the police dispatch until the required staffing and infrastructure are developed to allow for the transfer of calls for service to the newly established department. Option 2, if you're looking at your options table, is the same as option 1, but offers the added component of providing for the temporary facility repairs that address the health and safety issues identified by city staff to reduce the spread of disease and risk of injury to animals and shelter staff. This would require the City Council to direct the City Manager to issue bids for the facility repairs identified by city staff and appropriate $525,000 from the Animal Shelter Improvement Fund. Once received, the city has 60 days to award the bids for each project. While these items would address the immediate facility repairs, they would not bring the shelter into compliance with modern shelter standards. The projected cost of the identified projects total $777,000, exceeding the funding available in the Animal Shelter Improvement Fund by over $134,000. Of the repairs identified, the priorities totaling the $525,000 recommended by staff include roof replacement, electrical panel evaluation and upgrade, mold abatement, and reconstruction. These costs are estimates based upon projections prepared by the city's engineering project management personnel. The actual repair costs must be confirmed following completion of the project bidding process. The final option presented for consideration this evening would is the same as option 2, with the exception of the program operations component. Under this option, in place of establishing a separate animal services department, the City Council would direct the city manager to issue an RFP soliciting proposals for qualified operators to serve as the city's animal shelter service provider, including intake, coordination of veterinary care, pet adoption, and licensing. Under this model, field services, including dispatch and enforcement of animal regulations, would remain under the police department or be placed under a separate department. The city may also consider retaining animal licensing. This concludes the overview of the options presented this evening for consideration. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have at
Very
this
good.
time.
Thank you, Ms. Kramer. Very, very detailed, and I'm sure a lot of questions. Councilman
Mr. Mayor,
Figueroa.
Yes, thank you so much. Since I'd like to say a few words, especially since the animal shelter is in the 3rd Ward. I wrote down some thoughts here. For many past years, I've visited the animal shelter to donate supplies and assist with needs, from moving ice on hot summer days to dropping off some cleaning supplies and other plates for feeding the animals. Recently now, as a council member, I have stopped by to take a deeper look into the conditions of the shelter a few times now. The shelter is in dire need of immediate structural attention. The animals, employees, and visitors of the shelter are the ones suffering because of it. So I am glad that we are discussing this tonight, because immediate action is needed. I am open and ready to hearing the thoughts of the other council members and ideas on how to move forward with the shelter. And to my colleagues on the council, let me be clear and upfront from the start here. I will not entertain nor support any motion or plan that outsources our shelter to Riverside County. This is the little shelter that could, and it will be the little shelter that will. I will not support outsourcing to Riverside County. That being said, I'm ready to engage in conversation and hear ideas that will best help our shelter here in San Bernardino. I know we don't have all the money in the world, but let's do what we can with what we have. Let's fix what we can. Finally, as I have mentioned during a previous council meeting, I would like to place matching consideration to the future management of the shelter. I would like our police department to focus on police work. So we need to also begin the process. We also need to begin the process of transitioning the shelter out of our police department's management. Thank you. That's all.
Very good. Thank you, Councilman. Very good observations. I, too, want to support the idea that we do need to separate the services from policing and animal. There are unique aspects, and both have a deep calling in our community, and I appreciate our police officers. I appreciate those elements that they have tasked, and I'm very supportive of the separation of that. And I think that we do need to explore those opportunities tonight to have very candid and robust conversations. You're going to hear in just a few seconds here, but the opportunities before us are to separate the shelter services from the police department, allowing our police to focus in on the criminal activities of our community. So very good. Thank you, Councilman Figueroa. Councilman Nickel.
Yeah, I want to thank staff for preparing this. I too agree with my colleague from the 3rd Ward. These are services that we really need to provide within our community. I think the question we're all trying to grapple with, how do you pay for it? We're a broke city, folks. We are struggling, as you can see on a number of items just tonight. We're struggling to pay our bills right now. We're struggling to keep our city operating the way our residents deserve it to be operated. I do have a question for staff. Option 1 did not include the short-term facility item. Why was that not included in option 1 but was included in the other 2 options?
Well, we are trying to give you a variety of options to consider. If you went with option 1, it's with the idea that we would be coming back with what it's going to cost to fix the shelter, to bring it to modern shelter standards before you make the decision about the expending of dollars on the facility itself. So that's certainly, either of those options I think are good to consider.
And the reason why I'm asking it is I think we might have a few other potential options available to us. Number of constituents have brought it to my attention. We do have some facilities in the city that we could, in theory, utilize for purposes of either acquiring an animal shelter or leveraging for a future animal shelter project. Specifically, we have a dog park in the north end of town at Wildwood Canyon or Wildwood Park, and that constitutes 24 acres of prime real estate along our Waterman and 40th Street corridors. In prior years, we've entertained the possibility of potentially selling that property, developing that property. I would like staff to explore the possibility of perhaps releasing an RFP related to that property, or perhaps another alternative property that is under the ownership and control of the city, with the stipulation that should a developer want to acquire that property, they must do so by providing an animal shelter facility sufficient to meet the current and future needs of our city, and potentially give the city the opportunity to provide a fee-for-service model similar to what Riverside County is offering. My sense, I was at the park over the weekend. Currently, it is inundated with homeless. The few individuals that were there that were walking their dogs did so with some reticence because of some of the individuals that frequent that property. I've received numerous calls from residents. I think we can make higher and better use of that facility by potentially releasing an RFP, asking developers to come to us with their plan, and potentially turn that property over to them should they build us a facility that will meet our needs both now and into the future. So if we could add that, I'd like to support option 1 with the stipulation that we also entertain an RFP for Wildwood Park.
Councilman Mulvihill.
I'm going to support any proposal that is worthwhile and is within our means. The proposal about Wildwood Park, I think, should probably run across the neighbors, the Wildwood Association. I think we've done that step before, and it didn't turn out very well. But also, too, to extend something that Councilman Nickel mentioned about our serious fiscal problems. We need to look seriously. A number of our speakers talked about bankruptcy, and I think they're thinking wrong, because we're not going to have bankruptcy protection again. We haven't filled out our plan of adjustment. We haven't followed that. And so our next step, if we don't succeed fiscally, is not going to be likely bankruptcy. It's going to be disincorporation. And what I'd like to propose, this is kind of an aside, and I'll mention it later on when we talk about committee assignments, is that the city manager and city attorney and our fiscal financial director look into that. I think we need to have an update of just where we are fiscally. It sounds as though we're spending money from reserves, which I compliment Councilman Charette on keeping a watchdog effort on, and I very much support his efforts on that. We really need to look at where we are, not wait until the mid-year budget, because I don't think that we're going to be there. I seriously, with regard to the animal shelter, my concern is for the animals. A lot of stuff goes in there about some people favor the animals over humans. I think that's a little bit reversed, but the point is that I want to see the animals taken care of, and our shelter does not do that. I see some of the features down at Riverside. We have nothing to match that. I want to see that the maintenance improved at our shelter, because it looks like as though we're going to be there for a while, and that the long term, my personal belief is that we have some possibilities. The county is thinking about building a shelter in Bloomington, and if we could partner with them, I think Bloomington is close enough that it would be a good share with them. Already Highland and Yucaipa, as well as Fontana, are probably partnering with them. They don't want a JPA, but I'd like to see a long-term solution come about. I think in the short term, we need to fix up our shelter because we're going to be there for a while.
If I may, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman, who was it? Councilman Sanchez, I can't see you.
Yes.
There you are.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. First of all, I'd like to make a couple adjustments. So on the the shelter facility long-term plan, I want to appropriate $14,800 from the Animal Shelter Improvement Fund to engage Miller Architectural Corporation to evaluate the cost of rebuilding the shelter to meet modern shelter standards, and then send out those. These equate to blueprints, I'm assuming, for a shelter. These Miller Architects.
No, it will be just a report in what is the cost and is their professional opinion of if we can fix what we have or we need maybe to replace what we have.
Okay. And in that evaluation, will we be able to send that out to contractors who could then take a look and give us a price?
If the recommendation of the report that comes in that is we need a new shelter, so we need to engage another company for design.
Okay. All right. Then
yeah.
Then first of all, I'd like to set out that $14,800 aside to engage Miller Architectural Corporation to do that evaluation. I also want to direct the city manager to also issue bids for the priority facility repairs identified by the city, because right now this city council cannot make a well-informed decision without having all that information. So what we need is the actual price for a long-term solution, we need the actual price for a short-term solution, and we already know what the cost is for outsourcing.
Councilman, help us understand, where are you reading or referencing? Is it B, C, or D that you're suggesting?
So I'm referring to, in most cases, I'm referring to option 2.
I'll second that.
Yes.
On what?
So what I'm looking at, and I'll repeat this, what I need is action A. I need appropriation of $14,800.
So option A1, got it.
Yes.
All right.
I also need action B, which is shelter facility short term. So I need the list of priorities that city staff has listed as required improvements to keep the facility running.
To be clear, that's a spend of $525. Is that your?
No.
Oh, it is not.
I want exclusively for that to go out to bid, and then for that to be brought back to the council. Because right now, this list of improvements that the staff has recommended.
I'm just trying to help you here. So essentially, appropriating 525 would be stricken, and it stops at reconstruction, period.
What I want is I want it to go out to bid so that a contractor can give us a solid number. We have estimates from staff. What we don't have are actual numbers from a contractor ready to do the job for a certain amount.
That's correct, and we would have to bring those bids back to you. This is just an
Exactly. So that's what I want. I don't
And
want
that's what I'm seconding.
Yeah, and I do not want the money appropriated until we have that solid number. Because despite the fact that I actually do have a lot of confidence in our city engineer, Alex Kishta, who has proven himself to do very well here, I want to make sure that we have a contractor who can give us a solid number. So I think we can get that once that goes out to an RFP,
And
correct?
that's no cost, essentially, right? It's city
Exactly,
staff.
exactly.
That's correct. We would just need you to appropriate A in that case.
Exactly.
And then we'd
Okay,
appropriate
so
the rest when we come
A,
back.
B is just to direct staff.
Without the 525.
To send out that RFP,
Got it.
exactly, without the 525 being appropriated. We already know the number for what it costs to outsource, so I don't think staff needs to do anything there. And then finally, I do want to hand it over to Councilmember Figueroa, who has mentioned that he wants staff to also work on separating the police department from animal shelter services as well as field services. C. And I think I had a second.
Mr. Mulvihill, is that
And
a
I'll
second?
I'll add that too.
Is that a
My
second?
Yeah.
Very good. A motion and a second is on the floor. Councilmember Barra.
Okay, I just have a quick question on, so option 2 is also the one I'm aiming at, but the question I have is the $14,800, does it have to be appropriated from the animal shelter fund, or can it come from discretionary funds?
We don't have discretionary funds. We'd have to cut something else in order to fund it through different funds.
So it has to be from the animal shelter funds?
It doesn't have to be, but we
can cut from the libraries.
Councilmember, there's
I move the question, please.
642,000. Hold on. Mr. Sanchez. Councilmember Barr, there's a fund balance of 642, according to the packet page, and so that 14,800, yes, would be appropriated from that shelter fund, correct?
Okay, thank you for answering that one. The other question, the other idea I have here, and maybe we can add it onto the long-term, because it's going to cost us a lot of money to fix our shelter. Can we look at point C for the animal control program operations and reconsider the unsolicited RFPs or proposals we received, and hopefully start working with our nonprofit groups, and they can help us apply for grants to help fix the shelter. I mean, that's one of the outside idea.
That would be option D, and we would have to go out to bid and get solicited.
Only if the
proposals
motion maker
instead.
would make that amendment to that. So do you have support, council member?
Anybody would like to entertain option C, that we add in there, that we partner up with our nonprofits to help with the operations? Option 2, again.
I want to read action. I want to read action C. So action C is program operations. Direct the city manager to develop a plan of action, including a proposed budget and the resources needed to effectively operate the animal shelter, field, and licensing program independent of the police department. So I do believe that would include private corporations as well as a consideration of those nonprofits.
No,
that would
actually-
just be nothing more. Sorry, that would be nothing more than just a consideration of those nonprofits. That doesn't mean that we're selecting those nonprofits. That only means that is an option available to us when it comes to outsourcing some of these program operations to either a nonprofit, or the city can create its own department, right? Its own department to run both the animal shelter as well as field services.
Mr. Sanchez, are you deferring the discretion to the city manager? It sounds like that.
No. I would like her to develop the plan that will bring a proposal forward with several of these options. Just like they're wonderfully laid out here, I would like those options also brought before us as to city council. You can create a department that will run the shelter.
I'm hearing you say yes, there is discretion that she would do that.
Absolutely, yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Ledoux?
So what you're asking for is option C and D. So it's kind of between,
hybrid.
you want option 2 and option 3. You want us to tell you what it costs to run its own department and to issue an RFP for outside services. That's option D on here.
Yes. So basically, I'm asking that you do every option here. So A, B, C, D.
Without the 525 spent.
Without any money getting spent other than the 14,800 to engage with Miller Architectural Corporation for
Mr.
those evaluations.
Mulvihill, you're the second on this.
Let's step back here. I think, number one, we're talking about getting information on costs, right? Let's put that first. And then once we have the costs, then we can make that next step. I think, let's just keep it clean. We can think about how we're going to allocate all the effort, but I think what you proposed initially was that we just want the city manager to come back after an RFP, what the costs are going to be for the particular improvements that are going to be taking place on the animal shelter.
In light of your comments, I think you may be right. We may be overwhelming the city manager here. So first of all, let's go ahead. Action A, Action B, Action A and Action B. Exactly, without spending any of that money.
I can add, option B is just issuing bids, and we can bring those back to you.
Yes,
We can
exactly.
do that. So why don't we go with option 2? I think that satisfies everything everybody's saying.
Minus the 525
Yeah, we won't spend it
appropriation.
until we bring the bids back to you.
Okay.
Right.
All right, and there's a second expressed, not on the microphone, but by Mulvihill.
Yeah, I'll
Yes,
go with
sir.
that.
Very good. Councilman Charette.
Thank you. I think where we are right now, we're going to spend the 14.8, and that'll be money well spent. That's budgeted. It'll come out of this money. It's not coming out of reserves. It's not coming out of some other fund. And then we'll come up with that, spending that money, we'll be able to come up with a good RFP to where we can get some hard numbers for the repairs of the current facility. We need to do that. And then we'll probably spend the balance of that 642 on those repairs at some point in time. And I can support that. I do take a little exception with my colleague suggesting that we sell off Wildwood Park. I'd like to see us monetize many parks in this community. I think we have the ability to do that. And I had my head handed to me on a platter when I tried to do a great thing up there in my view. And I've had a number of people that have come back to me later and said, is that still on the table, that option, to have the developer come in there and develop the corner and in the same time pick up the tab to rehabilitate all of those Little League parks that's up there that are in such bad condition? Unfortunately, it got mixed up with a charter school. And indeed, we need to talk to the neighbors in that area. They, as I say, handed my head to me on a platter, and there were 150 people in a meeting that didn't just say no. They said, hell no, don't even think about it. And I've been accused of trying to sell off our parks. And my view on the monetizing of these parks is that if we, in some cases, Paris Hill's a very large park, Wildwood's a very large park, there is room for some development in there. And the development would have opened onto the park. It would have maybe been an ice cream stand and some other things that would have created a lot of activity. And I can tell you, folks, where there's activity, there is not homeless encampments, period. And that's what we're lacking in this community is activity of our citizens because we don't have the facilities appropriately monetized in some cases or used. We've got a lot of property and we've got a lot of maintenance costs and a lot of costs that we're not able to do. I remind you of the $5 million grant we got that we had to turn over to the water department because we were going to build a park, but we couldn't maintain it. But I'm really take exception with the idea of having developers. We're trying to be development friendly and entice developers in here. But to ask a developer to come in and say, okay, we'll let you build your little strip mall there, we'll give you this property or sell it to you, then you can develop it. Oh, but by the way, we need an $18 million facility built over here. It's got to pencil. It's got to pencil out. And a developer is going to just say, fine, keep your park the way it is. I don't need it. I'll go to some other city and develop it somewhere else. So certainly we can get buy-in and partnership, and this one developer that was up there, he was willing to take over that park, leave it a park, leave it Little League fields, and still have a nice little, we would have benefited by taxes, we would have benefited by employment, we would have benefited by more activity, and the public had no appetite for it, largely because it got mixed up with a charter school too. So rather than rehash that, I think we need to be looking at monetizing a lot of our parks. City managers, is that in here? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, but that might be a great thing to discuss during the strategic planning session.
Okay, fine. So I'd like to do that. But what I just want to make it clear to the public that these things are not. We are, my colleague said that we're on shaky ground. We are. We really are. And everybody's coming up here and saying they want their potholes filled and they want their parks done and we want the cops over here and we don't want the cops over there. It all takes resources and we're in trouble. We're in trouble right now. And I'm not trying to be a naysayer, but I'm just being practical and being reasonable that we've got a lot of expenses that have come up in this first half of the fiscal year. Well, no, not the first half, but the last half of last fiscal year that we're paying for in this fiscal year that aren't budgeted, and they're coming out of reserves. And I'm not going to support any more coming out of reserves. So I can support what we're doing, and as I understand it, we're spending $14,800, which is funded through this fund, and with that, I'll call for the question.
Thank
and I'll
you,
support.
Councilman Charette. Let's take our votes, folks. If members would please cast their vote or express their objection. We won't do roll call. Let's just, if there is objections.
Just
Any
another really
objectors?
quick question.
We're going on option 2, right?
Any objectors on it?
Just clarifying what.
Councilman Councilman
motion-
Figueroa, go ahead, sir.
So the actions that I'm proposing that the staff take up are option 2, with the exception that the $525,000 not be appropriated at this time for those shelter improvements, and only that the city manager send out that bid for those repairs, and again appropriate that $14,800 from the Animal Shelter Capital Improvement Fund to engage Miller Architectural Corporation to do an evaluation for a long-term solution.
And there's a second by Councilman Mulvihill. Members would cast their votes, and any dissenters, objectors to it?
Any objectors? The item passes 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. All right, moving on to our public hearing, item number 10. Item number 10 is a public hearing submittal of the fiscal year 2018-19 Consolidated Action Annual Performance and Evaluation of CAPER report. The recommendation is to authorize submission of the fiscal year 18-19 Consolidated CAPER report to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban. This time I'm opening the public hearing at 10:10 p.m. Could I get a staff report on this item, please?
Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, Maria Gallegos from our Housing Division will do the presentation, and when she's done, we'll be available for questions.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Maria Gallegos, Administrative Analyst with the Housing Division of the Community Economic and Development Department. I am here tonight to present to you the program year 2018-19 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, also known as the CAPER.
I'm sorry, Ms. Gallegos. If members would, public, please take your comments outside, and we'll have Cheryl Weeks. If we could please have the members of the public carry your conversation outside, please. We're trying to conduct business here. Thank you. Ms. Gallegos, please go ahead.
Okay. Since the city receives federal funding in the form of CDBG, home and ESG funds, the city is required to submit an annual report to HUD. And this report is basically an accomplishment report that reports all of our goals and what was completed throughout the year. And the CAPER is due to HUD by September 26, 2019. And as previously mentioned, the 3 federal grants received by the city are the CDBG Community Development Block Grant funds that must be used to benefit the low and moderate income persons, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, home funds for the provision of affordable housing for low income households, and the Emergency Solutions Grant ESG funds for homeless prevention, emergency shelter, and rapid rehousing of homeless persons. And the CAPER that we will be submitting outlines the city's accomplishments for the 4th program year of July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. And some of the goals that we accomplished during the program year were the acquisition and rehab of the Golden Apartments with 38 units to assist homeless households into permanent supportive housing. The city completed and sold 3 newly built homes on infill lots to households at 50 to 80% of area median income. 7 homes were rehabilitated through the city's owner-occupied rehabilitation loan program. And the ESG program housed 28 persons that were homeless. A total of 566 homeless individuals, including families, were assisted with either street outreach, rapid rehousing, homeless prevention, and emergency shelter. And last but not least, the city public works projects were able to spend approximately $2.7 million on CDBG funds to rehab and improve parks, playground equipment, and roof replacement. And
Ms. Gallegos, I want to take a moment to celebrate $2.7 million for public works.
Approximately.
And that is, I'll tell you, that is just, I really I've always said that those are expressions of city government, tangible benefits to residents, parks, park benches, public work improvements, sidewalk improvements, ADA improvements. That is very vital to our community, and we're grateful for that. Are there any questions on this? I think this is a simple matter. We're celebrating the moment of our CAPER report. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve it?
Move to approve.
Very good. And, I'm sorry. Do we have any comment cards, Ms. City Clerk? Any publics? All right.
Here.
I am now closing this, because I have to read this script. I am now closing the public hearing at 10:16 p.m. for deliberation and action. Do we have a motion? Council members?
I'll make it.
Very good. And the second? All right. If there's no objections? No objectors? Thank you, Ms. Anna. Item number 11 is a street vacation of a portion of Institution Road just south and west of Cohen Boulevard. The recommendation is conduct a public hearing per Street and Highway Code 8322, 8325 to consider comment on the proposed street and to adopt the resolution 2019-288 of the Mayor and City Council. Mr. Kishta, I'm opening the public hearing at 10:17 p.m. Could I get a staff report on this item, please?
Yeah, good evening. Not sure why it's not Mitch. He left.
Do you have a PowerPoint on it?
Yeah, I have a PowerPoint for
Okay.
this. So it's in the packet. If your packet, we can follow. For the public hearing for a street vacation, the applicant is Dennis S. Rice, and then the behalf of the owner TDC San Bernardino, and they own the two parcels adjacent to the proposed area to be vacated. The reason for the request is the area originally designed for a storm drain and purposes, and however, it was rerouted, and the area have no more storm drains at this point in time. The second slide is show you the area that need to be vacated. It's a portion of this Institution Road just south of West Cahoon Boulevard. And the slide after that is it show you the plat for the area to be vacated and the description or the plat or the legal description of what we're vacating.
Move for approval by council member. Are there any public comments, public speakers on this item? We have a motion by a council member and a second by Councilman Charette. Members, please cast your votes. Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Item number 12. Oh, I'm sorry. I am now closing the public hearing at 10:19 p.m. for deliberation and action. All right, moving on to item number 12. This is our consent calendar. We will poll council members and our staff on items. Council member Sanchez, any polls? No. Council member Ibarra. Council member Ibarra is absent. Council member Figueroa.
None.
Council member Charette.
Quick question on 18.
Yes, sir. Council member Nickel.
Quick question on 21.
Very good. Council member Richard.
None.
And Councilman Mulvihill.
Number 15.
Very good, sir.
Second.
Calendar, I have that the motion to approve was made by Mr. Charette, the second by Mr. Sanchez. Are there any no votes? The item passes 6-0.
Very good. Item number 7 will go in order. Councilmember Mulvihill, you have pulled item number 15.
Yes. First time it was brought up, everybody was looking at option 2. In other words, giving the Planning Commission also building commission appeals. Am I right on that? And I just want to indicate that I can't believe that you're going to have the Planning Commission impose a requirement that this is the board, which is the Planning Commission, be knowledgeable and experienced in building codes and building construction as required by the California Building Code sections and given there. So if you're going to vote for option 2, I'm definitely going to vote against, because I don't think you can educate the Planning Commission for experience in building construction, not only building codes, adequately enough to be able to act as an appeals board. I just, I don't consider that a reliable option.
All right. Thank you, Councilman. All right, is there a motion for approval? Councilman
I'd like clarification, what you just said, please.
What the option says, you're going to make the Planning Commission also the Building Appeals Commission, and what the California Building Code mandates is that the board members be knowledgeable and experienced in building codes and building construction as required by the California Building Code.
Mr. Mulvihill, I remember you voting and expressing that. I appreciate and applaud your efforts to keep us. I think what I'm getting at is you're right on. You probably voted. This is a second reading.
Yes.
So I think we hear you, sir, and we respect that perspective. Councilman
You can change your vote. You can change your vote.
Councilman Charette.
I'm voting no for the same reasons, and I think I did last time. So
You voted for it. So I would, just out of respect to the council members who are voting no, I know Director Mike Huntley gave a pretty thorough explanation of how we're going to meet and exceed that standard.
Train the Planning Commission.
Can you please elaborate on that? How we're going to meet those standards? Because I know that they are part of the state requirements, but we have a manner in which we're going to exceed those, right?
So for the benefit of the council, at the last public hearing, the two options were presented to the city council. Both those options were actually vetted not only by staff but by the city attorney's office also. With that, we thought that would be a viable option if council wanted to go along with that. I can understand the council members' concerns associated with the qualifications associated with the Planning Commission, but as part of that motion, it was to actually help provide additional training to the Planning Commission so that we get them up to speed so they understand that. For the benefit of the council also, we get these appeals very, very seldom, every few years. So,
Thank you, sir. Mr. Charette.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. This is all coming back to me now, and I think we talked about this, as you said, and I think I can support this with the education. I would ask my colleagues, though, when they're looking for members of any of these committees or any of these commissions, that we look for somebody that's got some sort of background in that particular medium, or what's the word I'm looking for, but so a builder, if you can find someone that's in construction, that'd be great. If you're doing animal shelter, someone that's involved with qualified. No, there was another word I was looking. But anyway, I will change. Whoever put my vote down, I'm going to vote yes.
All right, members. I think we have a motion and a second. If there are any objectors, so noted.
I did not hear who seconded.
A second on this? Anybody?
I will.
Councilman Charette. All right.
And then the item passes 5-1 with Mr. Mulvihill voting now.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hannah.
There's 7 of us here now.
Oh. Are you voting on this, Ms. Ibarra? Okay, very good. Moving on to item number 18, Councilmember Charette.
Yeah, 18. The only thing I'm going to ask is this is budgeted, I know, this $710,000, and it's coming out of 2, and in the backup it lists 2 account numbers. Is there a name attached to those accounts? If there is, I'd like it. If not, it could be given to me later, but
I'll provide that to you later. I don't know the name of the specific
okay, because
account.
the numbers, don't really mean anything in that context. It's just like nice to know the bucket name. Thank you.
If we would acquiesce to the councilman's request and provide all council members, including myself. All right, is there a motion for approval on this?
I have a question.
Is there a motion by Councilman Nickel with any seconds?
I have a question.
I'll second.
All right, Councilman Sanchez on the second. Ms. Ibarra?
Yes, my question, I understand we have a couple $1 million on asset forfeiture funds. Could those funds be used to make these purchases instead? Because we don't know what budgets these are coming from.
We've identified other projects that we anticipate spending asset forfeiture on, and then we have to go without that other equipment that we're looking for to acquire, which we see as very vital for our mission.
I move to call for the question.
Very
Do I have
good.
a second?
So members would cast their votes. Any objectors? Objections to item? So stated, please. All right. Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Item number 21, Councilman Nichol.
Yeah, I'm going to move to approve this item, but I did get some questions from constituents regarding this. I think there were some public comments this evening. I think it's no secret that the city has a lot of deferred maintenance, and particularly as relates to our streets and pavement. The question came to me, is this information that that is available to the public when we do these assessments? I know Redlands put together a really great program a number of years ago, and the public actually had, there was a lot of public communication, and I think it resulted in improving public awareness and knowledge of, just how big the scale of our infrastructure is, so they can understand. How do we get is this information available to the public once it's complete? I understand February of next year it'll be completed.
That is correct. The information, what we use is it's for the Department of Public Works use to budget and to schedule streets to be done in the next few years to come. But if that is something that we would like to popularize, we can put it in the.
Well, and I think it would be very important for the council to start to get its arms around all the deferred maintenance, because we get constant feedback from constituents in terms of what needs to be done, and to refer back to our plan of adjustment, we really need to become experts in terms of exactly what we're confronting in terms of deferred maintenance, certainly as a council, and I think more broadly as a community. So I want to make sure when that assessment is done, there's some mechanism to come back, maybe in a future strategic workshop, we can have some discussion on the results of that assessment. But we need to better understand what we're confronting. But thank you, staff. I'll make that motion to approve.
I'll second.
Very good. Members, cast your vote. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
wait a
sorry,
minute, hold
Councilman.
on, hold on.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kista, it seems to me that a couple of summers ago, your predecessor did a complete city inventory of the streets and came back to us with a report on the conditions they had. I forget, I read this over the weekend, but I was out of town and I couldn't go back to what my previous agendas were. Didn't we do an inventory of all the streets 2 years ago? And there was an indication, we had photographs of what the costs for slurry seal would be, crack, complete repavement, grinding and all this stuff. Haven't we done this?
That is correct, sir. The report that we presented to the council at that time was based on information that we have from 5 years ago, when this report was done 5 years ago. So based on that report, we give you the report on the conditions of the pavement at that time. For this report here, we did a lot of work in the city. We talked about street rehabs. We did some slurry seal. We have tremendous amount of work that done in the last 2 years that we wanted the report to be updated so we can move on to the next phase.
I guess because, it's costing us $122,000, but I don't think we based that 2 years ago study on 4-year-old data?
Yes, that's correct. The city is do this kind of updates every 5 years. And so that is when this will be done, it will be 5 years since the last update what happened.
So the information that we received 2 years ago is actually on the last 5 year?
3 years.
Well, it was 2 years ago, so
Yeah,
and 3 is
yes,
5.
Yes, yes.
At least I think so. Okay. Again, as I remember, the pictures were taken of what it looked like at that time.
At the time, we were trying to explain that is like to do the maintenance and to get to the streets that is by slurry seal right now to prevent them from going into being destroyed in the distress issue. That's why we're trying to explain the different kind of pavement that we can do.
Okay, I guess my understanding at the time was that you were doing it then, not it was 3 years data.
This is a very extensive work that is, a team from iWorks will be in the city, and they're going to drive every street that we have in the city and evaluate and give us a grade for it. And that's how we determine.
And that's what we had 2 years ago.
That's what we had 4 years
For the
ago.
old days.
Yes.
Okay, thank you much.
Mr. Keisha,
Mayor.
I think the other opportunity that we need to reassess, this iWork PMP plan also is included, we have to report it out to SBCTA, Measure I, gas tax funds. This complements the forward thinking of a council that has dilapidated infrastructure. In other words, we cannot continue to leverage our petitions and the grants and the state funding necessary without a PMP.
That's correct.
And so this is a very important component of seeking more funds. And now, help us reassure this. This will be completed February of 2020?
Yes, that is what,
And
that's
then
what
now,
the company assured us.
and that's a retroactive look back of the last 5 years.
That is, well, they will take the data that we have from, that they developed for us 5 years ago.
Okay.
And then when they go ahead and drive all the streets and reevaluate, then they will validate this data. You know, there are some streets going to go down in grade.
Sure.
And there are some streets going to go up in grade because we did work on them.
And we have approximately 500 lane miles, is that right?
So I think, if
550?
I remember, like 600 something, 651.
600 lane miles. So we have a big city, 65
It
square
is.
miles.
It is a big city.
And we need to do this. All right, Councilmember Barr.
I have a question, just real briefly. The 122,000, is this money, this is money from the Measure I funds, correct?
That is correct, and it's in the 2019-20 CIP budget.
Okay, and could we have better used that money instead of an assessment at this time to fix some of those streets? Because there's, and you know, there's some streets that are in really bad shape in the second ward that I have reported. CRMs were closed out and they were not included in the 5-year CIP. So that's, I'm just wondering if this is money that we could use to fix those streets instead.
The streets that you reported that need more than 125,000 to fix them because they're completely deteriorated, they need to be completely reconstructed. And
Correct,
like-
so we're going to
yeah.
pay an assessment to tell us, again, these streets are in deplorable shape and we're not going to get them fixed because it's cost a lot of
Yeah,
money.
but
Does that make sense?
But the assessment will also tell me that as these streets need to be slurry sealed, these streets need to be grind and overlay, and these streets have to be completely reconstructed, so we can have an idea of what we have, so we can move forward with a plan, so we can address everything that we have.
Okay, so in the last 5 years ago, they didn't mention these streets needing to be fixed then?
It did, but you know what, when we do our data and, you know, explore the data from this system, we have excluded the streets that they are completely deteriorated because it costs us more than just maintaining the streets that we have.
Okay, my concern is just, like one of the speakers said, on the north end of town, the streets are nice, and once you go down south, they're in bad shape. And I personally know of some streets that were getting repaved over and over.
I believe that is, and this year we did slurry seal project that is encompass every ward that we have here, and I made sure that every ward have the same amount of square footage slurry sealed, so there would be discussion between the wards. So we
Would you call
do
for the
that.
question?
Very good. Councilman Charette.
Yeah, just along these lines, and I can attest to the north end, they're not all that great. However, we have done some that are off, some veins off of some main streets up near the country club area.
Yes.
They're very nice. And my problem with that is that I get asked just those kinds of questions. Why are they getting it up there and we're not getting it down here? And what I'd like to be able to have, if it's possible, once this is all done and you've got a plan, I have found, and I think Broadmoor was a perfect example, as long as we kept telling people, yeah, we're working on it, or yeah, we're going to get to it, or yeah, we think it's going to be done soon, they wondered when. What they want to know is when it's going to be done. And if it's going to be done next week, let's tell them and get it done. If it's not going to be done next week and it's going to be done in 2 years, let's tell them that, and they can live with that as long as they know it. But we can't say it'll be done in 2 years and then when 2 years comes and say, no, it's going to be another 6 months. So my question is there a document that we can share with the public that says a schedule of, and maybe even why these are being done or how they're being done equally throughout the city? You follow? That's just so that we can communicate with the
Mr.
constituents.
Keach, the PMP plan, there's a link on your Public Works page It's available. It's
Does
a
it
public
give
document.
schedule?
It doesn't give a schedule.
It
The
does give a
schedule is
schedule.
determined by staff. After we,
That's what
for
the
example.
CIP is for.
For example, like, for this year, we're going to be getting $4 million from Major Eye. I'm going to get $4 million, 4.5 from SB1. So what the program do to me is I tell them, that's what I get. What can I get out of this money to the best that we can, extending our dollar as much as we can. And that system give me the street. This is what you need to do.
And you're
So-
trying to do it equally throughout the city,
Exactly.
throughout the 7 wards. I
That's
mean,
ex-
so that
No,
one group isn't being treated differently than the other.
No, I
That-
made
that's the
sure,
main thing.
I made sure that all the ward
Okay.
that got the same treatment for the Slade Seal program this year.
Well, I'm going to go out and drive my ward tomorrow, make sure.
I will let you
All
know
right,
when we did it.
Councilmember Richard.
Yes, thank you. So I share a lot of the sentiments with Councilmember Ibarra, especially being that in the 6th Ward, we have a lot of streets that are non-repairable. And they've been continuously being put on that list as being non-repairable, but how do you go back and tell, just like the speaker came up and spoke, right in front of our community hospital, that was on the CIP plan to fix medical center from, I believe it was from 9th Street all the way up to Highland. Still hasn't been done. So the only thing I want to ask of you tonight is if we could please have a list of all the streets that were repaired. And that way we can share it with our wards and let them know that, okay, so we repaired these streets in all these different wards. So that way they don't see that there's a lack of repairs or lack of maintenance in certain wards. So if you could please update that.
I'll be more than happy to submit to you a list of all the streets that's been done, and we are working on right now.
Thank you.
There's a call for the question, folks. Let's cast our votes.
On item 21, I have Mr. Nichol making the motion to approve and Mr. Sanchez seconding. Anybody opposed? Okay. The item passes 6-1 with Ms. Ibarra voting no.
All right, very good. Thank you, council members. Items to be referred to committee. Are there any items, council members, who'd like to agendize or refer something to a committee?
I think I mentioned, I think we need to get really a report back on, and I'm not quite sure to go to committee or if the city manager and finance director can take a look at just where we are fiscally. People keep on talking about bankruptcy, and I don't think that's an option. I think we need to have, and we talk about we're short on this money. Councilmember Charette talks about we're not going to take it out of reserves. Where are we?
We had said we'd bring back the plan of adjustment to you quarterly, so that'll be coming, and then we'll have mid-year probably in January. So you'll have 2 opportunities to have an update, either in October or November.
Can we get something sooner than that? Because
October's the next meeting.
Okay.
It'd be October, November for the plan of adjustment, and then we'll be doing mid-year in January, February.
Very good. Thank you, Councilman Mobile. Councilmember Barra.
Yes, I'd like our council to take a vote, if we can move forward with opening up a recruitment process for chief of police, city manager, and also a director of the animal shelters. If anybody can second my motion.
What committee does that go to?
Is your pleasure to
Directing our city
agendize this?
manager, yeah, or directing our city manager or someone else, and maybe HR,
Okay.
to open up the recruitments.
Part of the animal control item, you directed me to come up with the classification for a director of animal control, which we'll be doing.
Okay, and then I also want to open up the recruitment process already for city manager and chief of police.
Okay, that's at the city manager's discretion for the police chief.
I believe when we voted, one of my colleagues mentioned that we need to start the immediate recruitment for city
I
manager.
make a motion to object to the consideration of the question. To consider rejection of the motion, to consider the, or do I have a motion, do I have a second to object to the consideration of the question?
All right, point of order, just point of order. If there's no support for the agendized items made by Councilmember Barra, the matter fails. Let's continue on. We will then have reports on, I'm sorry, are there any more items to be referred to committee? Agendized? Seeing none, let's move on to our next section, reports on conferences and meetings attended. I want to report out that I had the privilege of attending the 73rd session of the Mayor's Institute on City Design in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was not at the previous council meeting. I was attending this function on official city business. It's a very collaborative experience, and I was able to work alongside other mayors from around the United States and urban design experts to refine our vision of the former Carousel Mall and our downtown, including, Councilman Mulvihill, you'd be proud of me, our transit-oriented development opportunities alongside of that Carousel Mall. We discussed issues from landscape design to urban design to transportation, and I learned new methods and what methods were working for other cities throughout our United States and how I can implement those to benefit our community. I'm very grateful for that experience, and I want to send my deep appreciation to the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I was able to gain a fresh perspective on the issues we face and receive input on how we can move our city forward. Are there any other reports from committee members, commissioners? I'm sorry, council members? All right, we will move for adjournment. The next joint regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council and the Mayor and City Council acting as a successor agency to the redevelopment agency will be held on Wednesday, October 2nd here at the Feldheim Library, 555 West 6th Street, San Bernardino. Closed session will begin at 5:30 p.m. and open session will begin at 7 p.m. Thank you and drive home safely.